Hey guys, welcome to Fanfic Fanatics. So in today's video we are gonna see, what if Deku had the power of Giratina? Movie. Before starting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are interested in MHA fanfictions. This story is Hijo de una dragona by Haunterdino. We find ourselves in a hospital where a blonde woman, better known as Ryoko Tatsuma, a heroine whose quirk allows her to transform into a dragon, is giving birth. After a few minutes, the baby is born, but you might wonder where the father is. Well, he unfortunately passed away because the author is too lazy to create a character from scratch, a furniture accident. But she wasn't alone. With her was her friend Rumi Usajiyama, better known as the rabbit heroine, with whom she was best friends, like sisters. After the baby's checkup, Rumi entered the room where Ryoko was holding a baby. As she said, the blonde. "It's very pretty," Rumi said with a smile. "I can carry it," stretching out his arms. "It's all yours," handing it to a gray-haired baby with blonde streaks. "It's lovely. And what will its name be?" asked the rabbit. "Izuku Tatsuma," he said with a melancholic smile. "Okay, but don't get like that." After leaving the hospital, the heroine took a leave of absence to care for her son, whom she looked after as if he were everything to her. During that time, the child learned the basics that babies learn: crawling, walking, etc. 4 years passed before little Izuku entered preschool or kindergarten. "Okay, honey, this is the school," Ryoko said at the school entrance. "Okay, Mom, when I'm done, will you come for me?" the little boy asked. "Yes, darling, I'll be here," with a smile. "Okay," Mom, giving her a kiss on the cheek. So, going inside the school, he waved goodbye to his mother. Once she was sure he was inside, she left with a melancholic smile, watching her little boy grow up, to go to work with little Izuku. He entered the classroom and saw several groups of children chatting at various tables, but what caught his attention was a boy with two-toned hair and a sad expression, covering the left side of his face with his hand. "Can I sit down?" Arriving at the table. "Yes," said the bi-colored one timidly. "Izuku Tatsuma, Shoto to do Roki," he said nervously. "Hey, can I ask you a question?" "Yes," she said shyly. "Because you were covering your face." Typical child's curiosity. "An accident," she said sadly. "But why were you smoking it?" "Everyone gets scared when they see me," she said sadly. "Well, I'll keep you company in your loneliness," Izuku said with a smile. Bringing a smile to the bicolor. Here Endeavor didn't become so obsessed with All Might. The accident was that Todoroki grabbed the teapot that was on the table with his hand, causing it to fall on his face. During that time, the bi-colored boy gradually began talking more with Izuku throughout the day, spending the whole day working together and chatting. At the end of the day, Izuku was able to see his mother. "Well, Todoroki, they came for me. See you tomorrow. Goodbye, friends," extending his hand. "Friends," returning the greeting. "See you later, Todoroki." "See you, Tatsuma." Then Izuku arrives with his mother. "Hi Mom. How did it go, son?" Ryoko said, holding little Izuku. "Okay, Mommy, I made a new friend." "Seriously, you'll tell me everything later." Receiving a nod from Izuku. So they both left school. After that, Izuku and Todoroki became closer friends. Everyone at school had awakened their quirk, but not the silver-haired boy. This worried his mother, so she decided to take him to the doctor. In the waiting room, "Tatsuma family," said a nurse. "We," Ryoko said, approaching the nurse. "Okay, come with me." While following the nurse, they arrived at the doctor's. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Tatsuma, what can I do for you?" said the doctor, sitting behind a desk. "Good afternoon, doctor. I came to have my son's quirk checked." "Okay, I'll have to run some tests on the little one, he doesn't mind." "It's not right." "Okay, little one, come with me," he said, getting up and going into a room next door. "Okay," Izuku said, following the doctor. That's how the tests the doctor performed on Izuku went. Mother and son waited a few minutes while the doctor returned. "Mom, do you think I'll be a hero?" "You'll be a great hero," the blonde said with a smile. That's when the doctor comes in. "Okay, Mrs. Tatsuma, your son has a gift, making the silver-haired man happy." "And what does it consist of?" "Okay, his gift allows him to transform into a dragon, but the strange thing is that this dragon is like a ghost. A ghost? They asked, confused. Okay. What's your gift? It allows me to transform into a dragon. Okay. And her husband's? It was something like shadows or something, she said, confused. Okay. It's most likely a fusion of her gift with her husband's, but better. Okay. I understand, Doctor. That would be all, Mrs. Tatsuma. Yes, that would be all, thank you, Doctor, bowing. It doesn't matter. Then they both left. When they got home, someone was waiting for them. Aunt Rumi, Izuku shouted, excited to see his aunt. How are you, brat? Carrying Izuku. Hi Rumi, said the blonde, arriving. Hi Ryoko, how are you? And where were you tying up? We went to see my aunt, he said excitedly. Yes, and what is it? The doctor said I could transform into a ghost dragon, Izuku said happily. So you inherited your mother's gift, she said mockingly. And so Rumi stayed for a while with her friend and her son, whom she treated like a nephew. Later, at school, she told Todoroki about his quirk and met his mother, just like Izuku's mother, who gladly told Ryoko that she would take care of Izuku. And so time passed, where Izuku and Shoto became like brothers, playing and spending time together, and Enji occasionally trained him in the control of his quirk. 9 years later, we can see Izuku and Shoto talking as they walk to their station. During this time, Izuku's mother reached the top 10, ranking number 9. Both boys had good control of their quirks, but Izuku grew tentacle-like appendages that were actually his wings, which he managed to hide. As they turned a corner, they saw some boys bothering a gray-haired girl. They were wearing different uniforms. The boys' uniforms were the same as Shoto's and Izuku's, but the girls' was different. Being the men they were and future heroes, they weren't going to let it go. Hey, don't you want to have some fun? Said one of the boys with an evil grin. No, the girl said quickly and without any expression. Come on, it'll be fun, another of the boys said, trying to touch her. I told them no, he said. He went on, but was interrupted by, well, look who we have here, a group of idiots bothering a girl. A voice from beyond the grave was heard. One of them turned around only to see Izuku with his eyes black with a red pupil, and as if they had seen a demon, literally, he ran away. Then the other two followed him, confusing the girl. Sorry about that. That's just how they are. They give the school a bad name, Shoto apologized. You're welcome, she said calmly. But that wasn't your voice, was it? It's not his, pointing to a silver-haired man who was standing next to him. I'm sorry if I scared you, but I already warned them, Izuku said. You're welcome, thank you Reiko Yanagi. Nice to meet you, Yanagi. I'm Izuku Tatsuma, and the Pokeball is Shoto Toroki. If what the lizard said. It's a pleasure, and thank you for getting rid of the annoying people. Okay Yanagi, it was a pleasure, but we'll go our separate ways. Hey, I have a question. Your aura is dark, have you done something wrong? He asked, tilting his head. Besides hitting idiots, nope, maybe because of my quirk. Maybe. Well, see you later. So each of them went their separate ways. When the boys arrived at the Todoroki residence, they trained for a while and then played video games. Afterward, Izuku returned home to make dinner and eat with his mother, who was coming from her agency. We find ourselves in Izuku's room, which was a normal room with a few hero posters as figurines, a desk with a computer, a bed, a television, and a couple of game consoles. He was lying on his bed listening to music since it was the weekend and he had nothing to do, but then he heard his mother scream. Izuku, she screamed, and when he heard it, he went to where the scream came from, going downstairs to get to the kitchen. What? Said Izuku, coming down the stairs. Son, could you go to the supermarket for a couple of things for dinner? Ryoko said, coming out of the kitchen. Okay, Mom, I'll just change and go. Izuku then went back to his room, changed, grabbed his phone and headphones, and went back downstairs. Downstairs, his mother told him what he needed and gave him some money. After that, he left the house, which wasn't very luxurious but was comfortable. After leaving, he plugged in his headphones and headed to the supermarket, which was a bit far. When he arrived, he grabbed a basket and started looking for what his mother had asked for. He was so lost in the music that he didn't realize he was going to bump into a gray-haired girl who was looking at a list. In the end, he bumped into her, causing them both to fall. Luckily, nothing they were carrying broke. Sorry, I wasn't looking where I was going, Izuku said, getting up. No problem, said the girl. Then Izuku offered him his hand to help him up, looking to see who it was. Miss Yanagi, I'm sorry. You're welcome, Tatsuma, she said, blushing slightly at how he said it, and taking his hand. And what's she doing around here? The last time I saw her she was near where I study, she said, picking up some things that had fallen. I live a few blocks from here, she said calmly. Or I didn't know. They continued talking for a while, getting to know each other better, exchanging numbers, etc. When they both left, they said goodbye and headed towards their respective homes. When Izuku was about to arrive, his instincts told him not to go inside. When he entered, he saw his mother with an angelic smile that was frightening. Izuku Tatsuma, where were you? He said with a smile. At the supermarket, Izuku said, frightened. And why did you take so long? Because I ran into someone, he said nervously. Okay, but let me know next time, got it? She said seriously. 1 year later, at Izuku and Shoto's school, they were talking about their final year and which school each of them would attend, both having been recommended by Endeavor, one because he was his son and the other because he had great potential. Now they were having lunch. Okay, so there are 10 months left until the tests, Shoto said, taking a sip of juice. Yes, Izuku said, eating a piece of meat. Okay, so are we going to train today? No, because I'm going to the movies with Reiko today, he said calmly. With your girlfriend, he said mischievously, continuing to drink his juice. Yes, that made Shoto open his eyes and spit out his juice. Since when? He said incredulously. -3 months, she said it as if it were nothing. And you didn't tell me. A little angry. You didn't ask me, she said with a chibi face. Oh, yes, that's true. They have known each other for a year, which would be 7 to 8 months of knowing each other and 3 months as a couple. So the school day passed. Back at Izuku's house, he greeted his mother since it was his day off. He went up to his room to wash up and get dressed. When he finished, he went back downstairs and told his mother he was going out with Shoto. After leaving, he went to Reiko's house to pick her up. When he arrived, he greeted her with a kiss, and they went to the movies. After the movie, they went for ice cream, talking about trivial things, etc. When Izuku dropped Reiko off at her house, he said goodbye with a kiss and went home. The next day, he woke up early, grabbed his jacket made for his quirk, and went to the Todoroki residence, but not before leaving a message for his mother. When he arrived, he saw Shoto doing basic exercises. Let's begin, Izuku said, warming up. Whenever you want, he said, having finished warming up. At that moment, Izuku activated his quirk, drastically changing his appearance. It was a battle where they held back because they didn't want to anger Mrs. Todoroki. When it was over, they were both resting on the ground until Todoroki spoke. And how did it go for you yesterday? She said, finishing her drink of water. Good. And what did they do? We went to the movies, got some ice cream, and that's it. And they kissed, he said mischievously, intending to embarrass his half-brother. Yes, he said calmly. Hey, sometimes I think Yanagi passed on her tranquility to you. Me too, but it's not bad, she said, shrugging her shoulders. Let's continue, Shoto said, getting up. Forward. Thus the 9 months passed, since the recommendation exams were done earlier. During this time Izuku practiced his techniques or movements with Shoto, and went out with Reiko. Before the UA entrance exam, Izuku had something important to do, and that was his 1-year anniversary with Reiko. When Izuku finished getting dressed, he went down to the first floor, and there was his mother staring at him. Where are you going looking so elegant? She said. Let's celebrate, he said calmly. What? Ryoko said, raising an eyebrow. My boyfriend anniversary, she said it as if it were nothing. Izuku Tatsuma, why didn't you tell me? She said as her hair covered her eyes. You didn't ask with a chibi face. Run, said Ryoko. But before he could throw anything at his mother, he ran away. After a while, he arrived at Reiko's house. He greeted Reiko's mother, since Reiko had already introduced him to her, and they went to celebrate. They went to eat at a somewhat luxurious restaurant, then went to the movies and did other things, but this was more important than the others. When they finished celebrating their anniversary, he left Reiko at her house and said goodbye with a kiss and went to his own house. When he entered, he went in very quietly, but then the light turned on and Reiko was seen sitting in the kitchen, pointing to a chair for him to sit in so that there would be silence between mother and son. "How long have you known her?" Reiko broke the silence. "A year and a half or more," he said calmly. "Why haven't you introduced me to her? You know, many people approached me because I was a top hero, and I was afraid they would use me," Izuku said, his head bowed. "Son, I didn't know, forgive me," she said, hugging her son. "No, Mom, it's their fault. They only love me because they want me to." "And what's she like?" he said, breaking the hug. "Well, she's affectionate, pretty, intelligent, and has a beautiful smile," he said, blushing slightly. "Okay, and when are you going to introduce me to her?" "Before UA, how does that sound?" "Yes, good son, go and rest." "Yes, Mom." With that, Izuku went up to his room. Time passed, and now we find Izuku and Shoto taking the theoretical exam to see which classroom they would be in this year. Only 5 students passed the tests to get in through recommendations, the 2 mentioned, Momo Yaoyorozu, Setsuna Tokage, and Juzo Honanuki. The exam was relatively easy, it consisted only of exercises. Izuku didn't use his wings or tail, and Shoto didn't use his fire. Thus, they both entered the Class 1A hero group. Now we see Izuku walking through the streets near the sea, having gone to a video game store since Reiko had passed on her passion for video games to Izuku. It was early when he saw a beloved blonde boy with a broccoli-like creature, and like a friend of a good detective, curiosity got the better of him and he made himself invisible to get closer and see what was happening. "And now it's your turn, young Midoriya, to be the 9th wielder of One for All," said the blonde. "I won't let you down, All Might Sensei," said the broccoli. Izuku didn't understand anything, so he went home. After a few days, he was at Reiko's house chatting when his letter from UA arrived. "You're ready," and, at that moment, the hologram of the blood hero Vlad appeared, telling her that she had scored 88 points on the written exam and 28 points on the practical, which wasn't enough. Reiko was about to cry, but the hero continued, saying that it wasn't enough to get into Group A, but it was enough for Group B. At that moment, Reiko jumped on Izuku, overjoyed that she had gotten into the best hero academy in all of Japan, but saddened that she wasn't in the same class as her boyfriend. Izuku Nara, won before UA, and like I told my mom, I took Reiko to meet her and she was surprised that my mom was a top 10 hero. They spent the time chatting while I played Mario Kart in linear with Shoto. When they finished talking, I took Reiko to her house and she told me that my mom was very nice, among other things. End of narration. The first day arrived, as Reiko didn't want their relationship to be known at UA. As soon as they left, they went their separate ways. Izuku went with Shoto. In the classroom, they were talking until more classmates arrived, but they just ignored them and continued with their own thing until some people arrived who talked too much. "You're the one who saved me from being a fucking zero," said a brunette. Yes, it's me," said a nervous green-haired girl. "Izumi, what do you mean, 0 points?" said an ash-haired boy. I didn't tell you, Kachan," she said nervously. "If you're here to be friends, you'd better leave." So everyone turned to look at a homeless man in a yellow sleeping bag. "The homeless shouldn't be here," said a boy, moving his arms like a robot. "I'm not a bum, I'm your teacher, Aizawa Shota, and I'll be your tutor for the 3 years you're here. I know it's sudden, but put these on, throwing UA athletic shoes, and I'll see you on the field." When the 20 students from first grade were in the field, Sato wasn't here. Everyone was surprised except for the 2 friends who were calm. "What do you mean, test, and welcome?" the brunette asked. "They will be heroes, there's no time for that, understood, Katsuki Bakugo?" Aizawa said. "Yes," said the named one. "You came in first place on the exam. Throw this ball from inside the circle." Throwing the ball, he steeled himself and got into position when he let out a shout of, "Shine," confusing everyone. "-705. Not bad. So we can use our gifts," said a blonde man with a lightning bolt on his head. This will be fun, said a rose. So, that's fun, huh? Let's make it even more fun. The last one left will be considered to have no potential and will be expelled. You can't do that, said a brunette fearfully. Disasters, attacks, villains, life isn't fair. Welcome to UA, with a decidedly unfriendly smile. The tests were carried out, in which Izuku didn't attract attention in the strength test, coming in second, as well as in the weightlifting and ball-throwing tests. But what caught his attention was seeing the green-haired boy break a finger when he used his quirk, and that's when he understood the ninth thing, since he had only just received his quirk. Hearing Bakugo shout things about not having a quirk, he put 2 and 2 together, and that's how the results came about. I'm too lazy to list them all, so here are the results, Aizawa said. 1 shot today, 2 Katsuki Bakugo, 3 Izuku Tatsuma, 4 Lita had, 5 Momo Yaoyorozu, 20 Toru Hagakure, Izuku Nara. She was the one who was going to be expelled. She was an invisible girl. It felt like she was sad about it until the teacher spoke, saying that the expulsion was a lie, which cheered the girl up. But I was a little annoyed by a comment someone made. End of the story. I knew it was a lie, said a dark-haired woman. And how can you be so sure? Izuku asked. But before she finishes, Izuku interrupts her. You seemed nervous. If it was a lie, why were you nervous? She didn't answer him, and he left with Shoto, sporting a victorious smile. Once they had collected their schedules, they left the academy. Izuku asked Reiko if he could visit her, and she agreed. After arriving at her house, where she was alone since her mother was at her agency, Izuku went to Reiko's an hour later to chat and watch a movie together. When it was getting late, he said goodbye to Reiko with a kiss and went home to rest. Now we can see Izuku talking as usual with Shoto, since he was waiting for his teacher who was late. Then All Might entered in the most unusual way, and all the students started praising him except for 2. After that, he explained the training and gave them their costumes. After they got dressed, everyone was ready. They look amazing, young people. One is missing, said the bicolor. Then Izuku came out in his suit. Except it didn't have its dragon limbs. Nobody said anything about his suit since it was a normal one. Izuku Nara. Then the 8th explained the training and how the teams would be formed. I didn't care, and it seemed Shoto didn't either. I was paired with Kirishima as the heroes, and it seemed my opponents were Yaoyorozu and Mineta, too easy in my opinion. The matches were good. The 9th broke her arm but won, and Shoto, well, he won very easily by freezing the building, but I saw how shocked Ash-haired was by that. End of story. Team C heroes and Team J villains, you have 5 minutes to get organized. Then both teams went onto the field. Well, what will we do? Said the fake redhead. You're nothing. Why? Just look. You'll do like Todoroki. But effective. Begin. Was heard from a loudspeaker. At that moment, Izuku disappeared from everyone's sight. Momo was putting up various barriers to avoid entering the bomb's salt, but suddenly she heard. The heroes win, was heard from a loudspeaker in the building. What? Said Momo. At that moment she saw Izuku leaning against the bomb. She was about to speak, but he just walked through the barricade as if he were a ghost and saw the redhead in surprise. Well, basically I'm a ghost, I just walked right through everything. Okay. Let's not make a big deal out of it. They started talking, and after a few minutes their opponents arrived. They didn't say anything, so the training ended. After that, Izuku and Shoto went to lunch, very peacefully. Every now and then, Izuku would glance at his girlfriend with her new classmates, but he left her alone, thus ending their day so calmly. So the next day, the whole of Class A was on a bus heading to the USJ with nothing to catch Izuku's attention until Asui blurted out a question. Oye Midoriya, you lived. Dime Suyu. See Suyu. I've noticed that your quirk and All Might's are similar, making the green-haired girl nervous. Yes, but All Might doesn't break his arms. That's where the similarities end, said the redhead. You're right, said the little frog. That made him sigh, noticed by Izuku, who was already more obvious. But if we're talking about strong quirks, Todoroki and Tatsuma's are the best. These two didn't say anything, but an ash blonde boy was throwing a tantrum about being stronger. A black-haired girl was looking more at Izuku, who didn't say anything. When they arrived, they got out and saw the Hero 13. At that moment, the fangirls screamed with excitement while the heroes spoke. After an explanation about their quirks, they entered the facility, but then the lights started to flicker and the doors closed. A fog appeared, bringing out villains, but what caught everyone's attention was a light blue-haired boy. The fog disappeared in an instant, revealing a chicken on steroids. Before Aizawa could react, the villain appeared in front of the entrance. "Hello, my name is Kurogiri and we are the League of Villains and we came to kill, but we didn't succeed because he ate one of Izuku's shadow balls, surprising the aforementioned. Sensei, I'm going for help," Izuku shouted, running towards the entrance. At that moment, Kurogiri stood up to grab Izuku, but a pillar of ice stopped him, freezing him completely. He decided to retreat. Izuku then burst through the door and unfurled his wings to fly to UA. After a couple of minutes, he arrived, passing through the first teacher's office, which was All Might's. "And that's why," said Director Nezu to Toshinori, the thin All Might, but he would be interrupted. "Villains attack on the USJ," said, looking at Toshinori. "I came to warn you." "Young Tatsuma, what? The League of Villains is attacking my class." Without wasting any time, All Might transformed and went there. "We'll talk about what you saw later, okay?" Izuku said. So the principal would gather all the teachers and they would go there, just like in the original story, but without any injuries since All Might arrived on time. He was the only one who came out a little worse for wear, so he was given 2 days off. The next day, Izuku was summoned by the principal, and his mother told him that if it was something serious, he would see. When he arrived at the office, he knocked on the door, hearing a, "Come in." He entered and saw Principal Nezu and Toshinori, but before they could say anything, he spoke. "Is your power fading?" he said, to the surprise of the two. "If I answer, the blonde one." "For passing it on to Midoriya." "How do you know that?" Nezu said. "I saw their ceremony on the beach with Arachibi." Then Nezu gave All Might a serious look, and All Might lowered his head in embarrassment. "What else does young Tatsuma know?" "That he's the 9th member of One for All, and that's all I heard on the beach." "And how did you figure it out?" "His quirk awakened at 14, since Bakugo always said that, and seeing that we're the same age and that he doesn't control it, along with other factors, I connected the dots." "Okay, young Tatsuma, only a few people know this, and you're one of them, so keep it a secret, understood?" "No problem 8th. You can retire now, young man," said Nezu. "Okay, see you later," he said, leaving the office. "Seriously, at the beach? I thought there was nobody here so early," the Aruban said sadly. Well, the good thing was that it was young Tatsuma and not someone else. "And who are their parents?" "Oh really? And, well, he got in through a recommendation from Endeavor." "Did he recommend anyone other than his son?" "Yes, his father passed away a long time ago, he never met him, but his mother is the current superhero number 18. Yukio didn't know he had a son. Few know what her son is, she hasn't made it public. But their gifts are not alike. He's not giving his all, and neither is young Todoroki. Why? They are waiting for their moment." Narration. We find ourselves in the locker rooms of the stadium where the UA First Year Sports Festival will take place. Everyone was calm until Shoto stood up and declared war on Izumi, saying he would win with his ice alone, and she accepted. After that, Shoto left the locker room, followed by Izuku. And that's what Izuku is asking. To add more excitement to the matter. Okay, so all the groups came out to see the referee who was the heroine of 18 Midnight, making several men blush. Okay, and now a few words from the first place winner of the entrance exam, Katsuki Bakugo, speaking into a microphone. Then the person named comes up and stands in front of the microphone. "I will be number 1, and I hope they are good stepping stones." Causing all the students to boo him. Okay, leaving that aside, the first game will be spinning a roulette wheel, an obstacle course. After the explanation, everyone went into a tunnel to wait for the exit. Then the hero, present Mike, shouted, "Begin." Everyone was trying to get out of the tunnel, but suddenly it froze, and Shoto emerged. What surprised him was seeing that several students had dodged him. Then came the first obstacle, the 0 points. "So that's what they faced," Izuku said in a Shoto lasso, And, at that moment, both of them had two 0-point opponents ahead of them. Shoto froze one of them to pass underneath, and Izuku simply walked right through him to clear the obstacle, but a terrorist was following them. When they reached the second obstacle, the drop, Shoto crossed by creating an ice bridge, Bakugo with his explosions, and Izuku calmly walked across the rope. When they both reached the top, they started running again, struggling, freezing each other, and launching explosions. When they reached the last obstacle, the minefield, they were moving slowly, but an explosion snapped them out of their struggle, and they saw Izumi flying on a piece of metal. They started using their quirks to catch up to her. When they overtook her, Izumi slammed her fist into the ground, detonating the mines and ending up in first place, Shoto in second, and Bakugo in third. Then Izuku arrived, very calm, in 10th place. The cavalry battle would be the same as the original, except that Izuku would take the mine's place, which, according to Bakugo, was more useful than raccoon eyes. During the break, Izuku and Shoto were eating peacefully until they were called. Okay, these are the first round matchups. Present mic shout. Izumi Midoriya vs Shinso Hatoshi. Honta Siro vs Shoto Todoroki. Denki Kaminari vs Abara Shiozaki. Teni Alita vs Mei Hatsume. Fumikage Tokiyami vs Yuga Aoyama. Izuku Tatsuma vs Momo Yaoyorozu. Tetsu vs Ejiro Kirishima. Ochako Uraraka vs Katsuki Bakugo. The fights would begin, with Izumi winning the first match. In the second, Shoto quickly froze 0, without exaggeration. Ibara would win the third, as he could no longer continue. Iida would win the fourth after being used as an exhibition for Mei's babies. The fifth was the fastest, as Tokiyami quickly sent Dark Shadow to attack before the blonde could react, giving him the victory. The hero and the narrator of the battles would shout both their names and both emerged from the tunnel, Tatsuma and Yaoyorozu. "I'll beat you," said the dark-haired woman. "We're not on the same level," Izuku said calmly. This angered Momo, who, when it started, ran out creating a bar to hit him. Seeing this, he dodged Momo's bad attack, which was like a spear, thus passing through her, but she stopped before leaving the arena. When she turned around, she ate one shadow ball, but he heard something before falling unconscious. "We are not at the same level." Thus, leaving the arena unconscious, the penultimate fight took place, resulting in a tie which was broken by a force of will, with the redhead winning. The last fight was a victory for Bakugo, not to say an implacable victory. The following fights took place. Izumi Midoriya vs Shoto Todoroki. Teni Alita vs Abara Shiozaki. Fumikage Tokiyami vs Izuku Tatsuma. Ejiro Kirishima vs Katsuki Bakugo. The first fight was exciting, but all the girls were worried about their teammates since she had broken all her fingers. Shoto went after her, freezing her shoulder, but she punched him in the stomach. Then she spoke. "Why don't you use your fire?" That brought a smile to Shoto's face, which scared the green-haired boy. "Because only a few people have forced me to do it." Then he unleashed a flame, not quite lethal for the green-haired girl, but enough to knock her out of the arena, giving Shoto the victory. Iida won the second match with his speed, eliminating Abara. The third match was a one-sided affair. When it began, Tokiyami sent Shadow to attack, but Izuku used Dragon's Claw, forming a claw shape in his shiny greenish hand. He gave it to Shadow, causing him to return to Tokiyami. At that moment, he took the opportunity to send him a shadow ball. Tokiyami was pulled out of the arena. He was still conscious, so he helped him up. In the last fight, the redhead couldn't withstand the Muslim's explosions and fell unconscious. Thus, the second round ended. The penultimate round was about to begin, and the fights were Teni Alita vs Shoto Todoroki. Izuku Tatsuma vs Katsuki Bakugo. In the first fight, Iida tried to win with speed, but Shoto's reaction was faster, freezing him. The second fight began, and Bakugo launched himself, propelled by his explosions, at Izuku, who threw a shadow ball weak, but then Bakugo breaks it with an explosion, creating a curtain of smoke. But then Izuku was seen in front of Bakugo with a shadowy claw and one shadow ball each one in his hands. He slashed at him with his claw, pushing him away, and finally finished him off with a shadow ball. As he emerged from the arena, a still conscious and standing Bakugo could only retreat, cursing, and then went to find Shoto to eat something since they had given him time to rest. When they were called, they were both heading towards the exits to enter the tunnel, but a white-haired woman intercepted them. "Hello Reiko, greetings from your girlfriend." Izu, giving her a kiss. "You don't eat in front of the poor," Shoto said, crying comically. "Hey, and when are you going to get a girlfriend?" "Truth," said the lovebirds. "Don't start," he said, annoyed by the topic. "Okay Reiko, see you after the festival." Sip, giving her a kiss of good luck. Thus they both went to their respective exits, and the albino girl, I believe, went to join those in her classroom. And the sports festival final begins. On one side we have Shoto Todoroki, the half-cold, half-heat, and on the other side we have the ghost, Izuku Tatasuma. Said by present Mike, both came out and positioned themselves in fighting stances. Let the sports festival final begin. But it was interrupted. Wait, then a redhead entered who was none other than Tuya Todoroki, Todoroki's third brother, a student at UA, being one of the strongest but not entering the big three. "What's wrong, Tuya?" said the eraser hero. "I have a message for the two of them." "Okay, thank you." Then he put his phone to the microphone and everyone listened intently until "Guys," Mrs. Todoroki's voice was heard. "I give you permission to use your full potential in this final." That left some doubtful, others surprised, and brought a smile to the faces of both finalists. But before it began, blue flames were seen coming out of Shoto, surprising all his classmates. Containing. That was everyone's thought, but it was interrupted by a dragon-like roar, and they turned to see Izuku transforming. Then its tail came out, making a crater with it. A few words crossed the mind of a dark-haired vice president. "We are not on the same level." And then he understood. They were holding back. Shoto launched many ice spikes and a blue flame, but Izuku launched a dragon pulse. A dragon emerged from its mouth as the attacks collided. Both ran towards each other, one covered in ice and fire, the other in a dragon claw and shadow, thus clapping hands, creating gusts of air, dodging and hitting each other until Izuku landed a blow. Gara Umbrai and one shadow ball. Then they both looked at each other and nodded, charging their strongest attack. But from a phantom height I appreciate Shoto behind a shady claw and shadow ball with the same hand. He struck him full force, sending him unconscious out of the arena, declaring Izuku the winner, Shoto in second place, and a furious Bakugo in third, thus ending the sports festival. After the sports festival finals, where Shoto and Izuku's strength was on full display, they were now entering their classroom. As soon as they walked in, they were about to be bombarded with questions, but Mama Caterpillar saved them from that. After everyone was in their respective seats, she proceeded to explain the internships and their applications, with Shoto going first, followed by Izuku and Bakugo. After that, normal classes began. At lunch, we can see Shoto and Izuku accompanied by Kirishima. "And where will you go, boys?" the redhead asked. Shoto said with the old man. "Endeavor." "Yes, and you, Izuku?" Con Edgeshot. "You don't go with the old man eating his lunch. Nothing that will torture you alone. You are cruel." After that they went back to class to finish the day. Izuku was going to his girlfriend's house to complete the challenge. When he arrived, he greeted Reiko's mother and knocked on her door. "Who is it?" Reiko asked. "It's me. What are you looking for?" "To you." "It's too late." "Okay, I'm leaving." Then the door opened and he was pulled inside. They spent some time chatting and playing. "Who will you be doing your internship with?" "With Edgeshot and you." "I haven't decided yet." "Didn't my mother send you a friend request?" "Nope." With puppy dog eyes. "That's probably because he had a lot of work." Maybe we'll keep playing then." "Okay." The day passed like this until the next day, when all the students went to their respective internships. When he arrived at Edgeshot's, he was received very well. During this time, he trained his stealth and camouflage skills. Edgeshot also forced him to use his quirk constantly so he wouldn't tire or struggle so easily. Everything was relaxed throughout the internships until they ended, where he showed improved stealth and speed. When he returned home, he just lay down and fell asleep. The next day, he returned to UA and saw Shoto all bandaged up. "What happened to you? You didn't see the news." "If the Hausu attack." "Yes, and what else?" "They caught Stain. AAA, your mother noticed." "If crying." But that was interrupted by Bakugo, who arrived with a new hairstyle. They couldn't contain their laughter and burst into fits of giggles, so loud that they angered Bakugo, whose hair returned to normal. They started laughing again, but then Aizawa arrived, silencing them. Okay, let's go to Omega Field. Already in the Omega Field, this was going to be a speed activity to get to All Might. The first ones to participate were Iida, Izumi, Zero, Ojiro, and Izuku in the surveillance room. I bet 1,000 on Tatsuma, Todoroki said. They shouldn't be, Momo said, but she was interrupted. I'll go for it, Kaminari said. Mineta said the same thing. By Izumi they said Uraraka and mine. I'll keep it and bet on Tatsuma, Kirishima said, grabbing all the money and ignoring Momo. Then the race began. Zero was in first place, which brought a smile to Mineta and Kaminari's faces, a smile that was erased by a green flash. It was Izumi. But before they could say anything, a shadow flew past them. It was Izuku in his dragon form. Surprising everyone that he could fly, he won, leaving Mina and Uraraka crying and Kaminari and Mineta cursing him, while Shoto and Kirishima divided the money. Then everyone returned to the room. Thank you. Why? Izuku said. I earned 2,000 for cleaning myself. The redhead said the same. But someone is watching him angrily because he still remembers his words. So everyone passed by, and that's how the day ended, with Izuku doing nothing, walking home. But he saw a shadow pass by and disappear. He didn't pay much attention to it and went home to rest, since he had a surprise exam or something like that coming up soon. I realized Ryuko is a level 9 hero at this time, sorry for the mistake. We were at the UA in a sort of field. The students were standing in front of their professors. What are the teachers doing here? Izumi asked. We're here for your exam, said the principal, emerging from Aizawa's scarf. Do you know what it's about? To destroy robots. Mina and Pichu shouted excitedly. No, we changed the exam. In this exam, they will struggle with their teachers, causing the students to get scared. But there will be advantages to being in pairs, partly because we will use 4 weights that are half our weight, and also if we are handcuffed we will win, showing the objects. Okay, the pairs will be announced, and their opponents will be paired up. When it was Bakugo and Izumi's turn, All Might arrived. Some gave thanks, and others prayed for them. And finally, the young Tatsuma and Kirishima were going to face Mentos, but they were needed in another situation, so they will face. Then the heroine MT Lady arrived. Tatsuma calmed down, but Kirishima got scared. Okay, if I don't help him he won't go, Izuku thought. The battles unfolded similarly to the originals with a few minor changes until the final match, Giratina and Red Riot vs. Mount Lady. But you might wonder how Izuku chose his hero name. It's simple. His girlfriend chose it. Kirishima looked depressed because he wasn't going to be able to do anything. Then it was his turn to face the men. Understand. And, do you know that a hero shouldn't be alone? And, that's why we're a team, to help each other with what we can't do. If it's true, more lively. Then they gave the starting signal. In the surveillance room, you could see the two of them running to the other side of the city. They think they prune, Mina said. I said yes, Jero. No, MT Lady has her gigantification power. Although Izuku passes through her, Kirishima won't be able to. Izuku has more than one trick up his sleeve, Shoto said with a smile as he entered the room. Yeah, like he was going to become a dragon. Shoto didn't say anything and just started watching. In the field, they were both running until a kick came from a street. Izuku didn't do anything to him, but he sent Kirishima crashing into a building. Red Riot. Izuku quickly launched a shadow ball, but it did nothing. Then MT Lady launched another kick, but he dodged it. Red Riot, get up and run, you are hurt. Kirishima, who was barely conscious, saw his friend's face, giving him confidence. He got up, clutching his broken arm, and left the building, starting to run with his back to Izuku. You won't leave, hero. Before she started running through Kirishima, a black light appeared and made her return to Izuku. Then a large dragon appeared, causing the heroine to crash into a building. A dragon then appeared. In the surveillance room, everyone was surprised, but Momo was even more so than Shoto. She didn't miss the opportunity and took a picture to show Izuku. Mount Lady wasted no time and grabbed a piece of rubble, throwing it at Izuku with great force, knocking him into the street and stopping him a block away. He got up and unleashed a basic dragon fire blast, hitting Mt. Lady squarely. The attack was enough to leave her in great pain. He took advantage of this to fly to the exit where Kirishima was waiting for him. He transformed back, and they both arrived at the exit together. It was the exams for the camp. Izuku passed almost perfectly, and Kirishima miraculously didn't fail, making him very happy. Izuku Nara, hi, well, as I said, what happened at camp was a disaster. First, they threw us off a mountain and made us cross the forest on foot. You might be wondering why I didn't fly. Well, Aizawa very kindly told me that if I flew, I'd fail. So I walked for over 3 hours while helping my classmates. After that, we went to the hot springs, and the purple dwarf couldn't calm down. He wanted to see the girls, so he just threw a shadow ball at him, and he ended up embedded in the ground from the fall. After that, training was hell. I just wanted to sleep, but as life hates me, there was a damn villain attack while we were doing an activity. Class B and half of Class A were in the forest where the villains came from. Seriously, well, I went into the forest basically to look for Reiko and take her to camp. When I saw her, I pretended I was there to help and went with them. After they left us in the classroom so we wouldn't get hurt, everything happened. Midoriya ended up with both arms broken, and they took the Bomberman after they dropped us off at home. I value my life so much, and my girlfriend told me to stay with her the next day. Later, I saw on the news that they were saving the Muslim boy, and I saw that my damn classmates went to his rescue. I grabbed my phone, which I'd left without a battery because I was playing games, and saw 10 messages from Shoto. It's a good thing I told Aizawa that if anything happened, he should tell my mom because otherwise, I'd be dead right now. Basically, he threatened to expel everyone for going to save the Muslim boy while I was just having a good time with my albino girl. The following days, they finished the dorms, and my mom gave me permission because, basically, I'm an angel and because, honestly, she didn't want me at home anymore. End of narration. And if it weren't for the withdrawal, everyone would be expelled except for Jiro, Toru, Bakugo, and Tatsuma, Aizawa said. That surprised and frightened everyone. Okay, leaving that aside, go and put your things away. So the day passed with the students tidying up their rooms. Now there were only a couple of hours left before bedtime, so the girls wanted to see the rooms. Everyone was there except Bakuho, Tsuyu, and Tatsuma, so they started looking at all the boys' rooms until they got to Izuku's, but Shoto stayed there. Hey Todoroki, let's go, said Momo. Izuku is missing, said the bi-colored boy, attracting everyone's attention. He shouldn't be asleep, said the green-haired girl. No, he is. Damn it, was barely audible, but from inside you could hear shouts and insults. He's playing, so let's see what happens. Inside the room, damn Yasuo, he ruined the game. Izuku said angrily. He was about to start playing, but he heard the banging, so he got up from his chair, turned on the light, and opened the door. What happened? Can we see your room? Shoto said calmly. Come on then, he said, opening the door wider. Stepping inside, he saw a room with a bed covered in black blankets, a few posters, a gaming computer, a chair, and several framed photos of himself with his friend, his mother, and one with his girlfriend. What surprised everyone was that it was soundproof. What were you playing? Shoto asked. Lol, Izuku said angrily. And, a son of AB, but he fell silent upon remembering something the albino girl had told him. What? Nothing. And because you soundproofed it. So you don't bother me while I'm playing, handing Shoto some juice. Okay, fine. Taking a sip of juice, thank you. Then Kaminaria spoke to him. Wow, what a great woman, looking at the photos of Izuku she had on a shelf. At that moment, an aura of death was felt that frightened everyone. What did you say about my mother, you son of a bitch? With Giratina's voice. At that moment, Kaminari turned around in fear and swore he saw death itself behind Izuku, causing him to faint. Mineta, well, he fainted from the aura alone, since he couldn't see. You're scaring everyone now, Todoroki said, pointing out that all the boys had taken a step back and the girls were hugging each other. Okay, that's your mother, Momo said, looking at the photo of Izuku and Ryuko. And, It's very pretty. And her, Mina said, pointing to a photo of Izuku and Reiko hugging. My girlfriend. Then something was heard breaking into 1,000 pieces. How long have you been here? Toru and Izumi asked at the same time. More than a year. Ah, the girls said. Okay, you can leave now. You don't want to come. Izumi said, already outside the room, while Kirishima carried Kaminari and Mineta like sacks of potatoes. No, closing the door, going back to playing, and getting another one to play, which Fedio said, and cursing, he went outside through the balcony, seeing how the rescuers were while they hugged the little frog. Then he decided to jump down and fly. What they said about them, he said. Then they got scared, screamed, and looked all around but saw nothing until Shoto spoke. Tsuyu didn't want to talk to us, looking up. Then everyone looked up to see Izuku floating. Okay. Hey, Tsuyu said, I didn't see you at the hospital. Did you know about the plan? No, but I did send you messages, Shoto said, annoyed. It didn't have a battery, Izuku said, scratching his head. And what if it were an emergency? You know where I was, with a realistic look. You win this round. So they went to sleep, but Izuku played for another 2 hours before finally going to sleep for the next day of school. Izuku Nara. Hi again. Okay, I'll say that this week was super boring because it was all about learning special moves, and I saw Aizawa, like, seriously, I'm an arsenal of moves, so I spent all those classes asleep. All I know is that they almost killed Bones with a rock, and now we're on a bus to take the license exams. I'm leaving now, the lazy. Teacher, is calling me. End of narration. Okay guys, we're here now, so, Aizawa was saying, but he was interrupted. Aizawa, it's been a while, said a green-haired girl. I think Aizawa looked scared. Let's get married. No Dijo, Aizawa repaid him net. How funny you are, Aizawa, said the woman, laughing, who was more like the Joker. But Izuku saw some kids approaching and greeting everyone, but then he smelled a scent he recognized from the camp, and it was coming from a blonde girl. He approached his sensei. Aizawa said seriously, see Satsuma, he could use his quick on that student, pointing to the blonde. Why? Aizawa asked, confused. I don't have a good feeling about this, and you know why. Okay, I'll trust you. At that moment, Aizawa activated his quirk on the blonde girl, who dissolved into Toga. Upon being discovered, she moved swiftly to stab one of the boys accompanying her, but before the knife could reach him, Izuku appeared in front of him, taking the stab wound to his arm. This surprised Toga, as the knife broke. In a swift movement, Izuku turned her around, pinning her to the ground. The action was so fast that everyone was in shock until Izuku spoke. Zero tape. The named one quickly went and wrapped the villain up. After that, some asked him how he knew or how fast he was. He had a face like he didn't care what they said. In an hour, they found the student unconscious in the bathrooms. After the police took Toga away, the whole of Class A kept asking Izuku until Aizawa arrived. How's your arm? He asked, worried but in his usual tone. Nah, it's okay, I won't die. You can do the exam, Aizawa said more calmly. The question is offensive, so they went inside to see that there were more students than outside. Then a guy came in who looked like he wanted to get killed, explaining about the exam and all that, to hand them detectors and balls. After that, the walls fell away and they found themselves literally in a stadium with different zones in a fake city. There were stands where the senseis from all the academies were, including Aizawa. Did you tell him? Asked Joker, who was behind him. They don't need it. In that sense, they are an alarm that was about to begin. He doesn't need it, seeing as there were 15 in Class A. When they become professionals they will know their quicks. Then several students from other schools appear to attack them, but we don't care about that because it happens the same way in anime manga. Let's go with the dragon and the bicolored one. And how are things going with Yanagi? Asked Shoto, who was walking beside Izuku. I go and see her at night since my comrades don't see me. I'm not surprised, it's clear they love each other and when what? Eren, your relationship is public. The class knows you have a girlfriend, but they don't know she's at the academy. He said that when we have exercise, both classes. Enten, but was interrupted by some amateur ninjas who attacked him. After a few minutes, The ninjas could be seen frozen and stuck to the walls, some unconscious and others not even moving. Taking advantage of this, they slipped past and left. When they reached the room, they talked about trivial things until the rest of Class A arrived, being almost the last to pass by miracle. After that, they were called again for the second part, where I'll say that everyone passed except the Muslim boy. Because of this, and because Shoto used logic to help Izuku buy time with Great Orca since it was a civilian rescue. After leaving, some went to their rooms, but Izuku and Shoto started playing games in their respective rooms until late, since the next day was a break. Neither of them was seen all day because Shoto didn't want to go out, and Izuku spent it with his girlfriend watching movies since she was taking the exam the following week. Later, he spoke with his mother, who congratulated him but told him that she wasn't going to accept him at her agency since it was for women. But he'll surely get some kind of residence, since Aizawa said it would be soon, but he didn't say when. Izuku Nara, hey, how's it going? Well, basically, after the licensing exams, nothing interesting happened these past few days, except that the big three came to the classroom and humiliated the whole class. Only I was left, and since Aizawa didn't want to see a battle that would never end, he declared it a draw. After that, some classmates went to agencies, and I've seen them a little stressed out, acting strange, but that's all. You might be wondering, and you? Well, nobody called me, and my mom basically told me not to, but I'm doing great here watching a movie with my classmates. My sensei will be talking to me in a bit. Bye. End of narration. At this moment we can see Aizawa and Izuku outside the Class A dormitory. Okay, I'll be direct. You can become intangible to other people, Aizawa said seriously. It depends on the size. I'm practicing that. You could handle a girl of about 5 to 7 years old. Why? Izuku asked, confused. I need your help on a mission to get a girl out of a dangerous place. It will have to be done tomorrow and it will be complicated. Will you support me? Okay, but send me the details, Izuku said seriously. If I send them to you by message, and there's a meeting tomorrow, go there before you go, handing Izuku a sheet of paper with an address. Okay, I'll be there. See you tomorrow. Entering the dormitories. See you tomorrow, leaving the dormitories. Then Izuku checked what time it was going to be and saw that it was going to be early, so he said goodbye to his classmates and went to sleep. The next day, Izuku woke up a little late, and as he was leaving, he saw several of his classmates leaving, but he didn't pay them any attention. He continued on his way to Aizawa's office, reading the mission report that Aizawa had given him. When he arrived, he knocked, and a secretary answered, telling him that he was looking for Aizawa, who had summoned him. She went to get him. In the meeting room were several heroes, including students and the big three. When they were about to begin, the secretary entered. Excuse me, but are you looking for Aizawa? The secretary said from the doorway. Who is it? Said Sir. A is a young man who said that Aizawa summoned him here. Let it go, Aizawa said, sitting in his seat. Then the secretary left to bring Izuku. Why did you call him? Sir, Aizawa asked. He will help us on the mission. In what? To take the girl out. While these were conversing, the students were talking with the hero in charge of each one. Then the door opened, revealing Izuku, who had entered. He turned pale upon seeing a certain heroine talking with her students, Tsuyu, Uraraka, and Nahari. Tatsuma, you're on time, Aizawa said. At that moment Ryuko turned to see her son standing in the doorway as if his soul had departed. Izuku, Tatsuma, what are you doing here? That surprised everyone since the heroine knew the boy. Do you know Yukio? Aizawa asked. Do I know him? He's my son. She said, annoyed. Everyone was surprised, especially Nahari, since she didn't know about her son, but at that moment Aizawa felt that they wanted him dead. And why wasn't it known? Nahari asked. I wanted an easy childhood for him. At that moment, Izuku snapped out of his shock. Hello, mistress. We're not at work right now, understood? Yes ma'am, causing a vein to pop out on Ryuko's face. And you won't say a word about this, or you'll see. Then a murderous instinct was felt, frightening everyone, so they just nodded. Then they proceeded to explain the plan and what would be done. After the explanation, they went to the place where everyone was. The plan was simple. Enter from the front while Izuku went through everything to reach the room where Eri was. All the heroes were already in front, and Izuku was standing on the invisible ceiling. At that moment, the police rang the doorbell. Izuku quickly descended through the floors, passing through everything and everyone until he reached the little girl's room. She had a sad expression and was about to cry. At that moment, Izuku became transparent so that Eri could see him. "Hello, little one," Izuku said to Eri, who was approaching. "Who are you?" Eri asked fearfully. "I know I'm not pretty, but I'm here to get you out." "You're a hero." "Yes, and you want to go out," Izuku said, stretching out his arms. "Yes, please," crying. Izuku picked up Eri and was about to leave, but at that moment the door opened, revealing Overhold and a death preceptor. "Who are you?" said Overhold, but Izuku acted quickly and threw a shadow ball that hit both of them, causing them to crash into the wall behind them. Izuku quickly left the room with Eri in his arms, her face hidden against his chest. He and Eri became invisible, and they quickly passed through everyone and saw the heroes descending. He quickly emerged outside and became visible, seeing the villain defeated and arresting the other villains. "Son, she said, just so Izuku could hear her. "Yes, Eri is here." Then a police officer grabbed a radio and said they had the girl. So they waited outside, and after a while they all came out with the teachers and arrested their leader, since Overhold was unconscious from the impact of Shadow Ball, and only the members of the League of Villains escaped. That day there were no casualties, only some wounded. After the teachers were taken away, the convoy they were traveling in was attacked by the League, which left Overhold incapacitated, who was said to have lost without putting up a fight. After the mission, Eri stayed in the hospital because they knew the risks of her quirk and had made her expel all her energy into some plants until they turned into seeds, causing her horn to diminish. After the little girl was rescued, she was visited by Mirio and Midoriya, but there was someone else she wanted to see, Izuku. He went to visit her after that. Then the cultural festival took place, where the same thing happened. Midoriya stopped Yender, and everything was just like before, but that wasn't important. Now, the entire Class A was gathered in the common room because today they were going to announce the top heroes, which was as follows. Currently, the heroes were going to say a few words, and the first was Ryuko. "Okay, thank you so much for continuing to keep me at the top, but I have some news." At that moment everyone was murmuring, and that is that I have a son. At that moment everyone in Class A was surprised. It was the same, plus two girls were saying things like he was handsome, strong, etc. "Miss Yukio, could you tell us who she is?" said the event representative. "He's the winner of the sports festival," said the heroine. In the common room, only a "how" was heard, and everyone turned to look at Izuku and asked him 1,001 questions, and some were afraid of what might happen to them if they talked too much. Kaminari and Mineta. After the event, the high-end Nomu thing happened, and all that happened normally, but I'm not writing it down because I don't know the dialogue. Currently, Class A was in a training field in their winter suits practicing until a voice was heard. "Hey, you all seem pretty calm, don't you? You're underestimating us," said a voice from behind a curtain of dust. "There they are. We're excited, that's all," said the red Metapod. "I see. I feel sorry for you. Now we're the ones on a roll." The voice was heard as a group looked on. "Today we're clearing things up, Class A. I'm not writing down all the fights because it's the current arc of the anime and I'm too lazy." And so the battles began, which were as follows. "Okay, swap Mina for Sato and you win because they basically do the same thing." The participants appeared on a screen where Izuku was searching for himself until he found Izumi, Uraraka, Mineta, and himself, but when he saw the opposing team, his soul could be seen leaving his body. Tatsuma," Izumi asked. "This one's already dead," said Mineta, poking him with a branch. "Why?" Uraraka asked. "But his rivals," Shoto said. "But he's very strong," Izumi asked, confused. Shoto just smiled and was laughing internally. The first 4 matches had already taken place, with Class A winning 2-1 and one match ending in a draw. Now the last team was on the field, preparing because it was about to begin. "Okay, Tatsuma, you'll go first for reconnaissance," Izumi said. "But, understood," Izumi said with an angelically devilish smile. "I'm going to die today," Izuku said, but he just nodded. "Begin," came the announcement over the loudspeakers. Without further ado, Izuku took out his wings and tail to begin flying, followed by Izumi, and finally Uraraka and Mineta. But suddenly they were separated as Izuku was slammed into a wall. Tatsuma, Izumi shouted, but she saw Monoma and went after him. That's why it happens just like in the original story. With Izuku, he was dizzy and in pain, but suddenly he fell, and in front of him was Reiko Yui. "Hi Izuku," Reiko said, which confused her friend Yui. But he didn't finish because he was sent flying through several pipes. This surprised his entire class, including his teachers, as one of the best was being beaten up by a girl until Shoto spoke up where they were watching the battles. "His quirk is the opposite of Izuku's," Shoto said, drawing everyone's attention. "Why?" Momo asked. "Well, her quirk is Portelgeist, which is basically telekinesis, and Izuku is most affected by the attacks he throws, but hers is basically more powerful against him," Shoto said, surprising everyone. "Do you know each other from before?" Kendo asked. Shoto just stared back at the screen where Izuku was dodging giant nuts. His teammates were dealing with Shinso and Monoma, but a small nut, propelled by Reiko, hit him twice as hard as the other teammate, delivering a direct blow. But Izuku activated his form. He began dodging more attacks, but suddenly he saw black whips attacking uncontrollably, breaking some pipes. At that moment, Izuku launched a shadow ball to give them wings, pushing them away, but he received a blow that sent him flying, causing his forehead to bleed. But the girls didn't stop, and the fight continued, with Izuku giving his all to avoid falling unconscious. But suddenly, he received several blows, and then he saw the other member who, without warning, launched a shadow ball, causing him to fall unconscious. But Reiko took advantage of this to send him crashing into a wall, stopping the use of his quirk. He fell to his knees, and his armor disappeared, returning him to his human form. With a smile, he fell unconscious. "I'll carry him," Reiko said, receiving only a nod from her partner as she used her quirk to carry him, carefully placing him in the prison, making it a 2-to-1 situation. In the end, the girls managed to knock Uraraka and Mineta out of the game, but they couldn't defeat Izumi, thus giving Class A the victory in the 5th match. Izuku lost and was waiting for it to end. When the injured were taken to the infirmary, the Class A team was standing in front of their sensei. "Okay, you did well, but Midoriya, next time let your classmates give their opinions, okay?" Aizawa said. "Yes, sensei," Izumi said, embarrassed, since Izuku had a bandage on his head. "That's all, you can leave." Hi said the team. She was leaving to change, but a dangerous woman was coming. "Izuku, I'm sorry, what's wrong with me?" she said in front of the named one. "Oh really? Just a little bit," Reiko said. "Yes, a little," but this was seen by her teammates, which Reiko noticed. "Oh, I'm sorry, Reiko Yanagi," she said, removing her face mask. "You are," both women said upon seeing Reiko without her face mask. "If she's my girlfriend," Izuku said. That was heard by several people from both classes. "Like you're dating someone from another class," said Monoma, who was knocked out by an excited Kendo. "Since when are they?" asked the president of Class B. More than a year Reiko left. As the day passed, both classes met to socialize, but the center of attention with the girls was Reiko for being the first with a partner from both classes of first-year heroes. The hero Edgeshot and his pupil Giratina were cutting through everyone because their target was none other than Rikiya Yatsubashi, better known as Redestro. They were both entering until they found him sitting in a kind of wheelchair. "Stop, Redestroy," Edgeshot said, appearing next to Izuku. "Or the heroes have arrived, this will be fun." So both heroes had to avoid debris that Redestro threw, which had activated his gift. The battle began. Edgeshot tried to pierce him to knock him out, but he couldn't. Izuku activated his form. He started shooting and dodging, but the attacks didn't do anything to him. "Sensei, the attacks aren't working," Izuku said. "We must be careful." But he was interrupted as Redestro appeared in front of Izuku and punched him, sending him flying into a larger area where there were more villains. "Giratina, are you all right?" Edgeshot said, arriving beside him. "Yes, a little dazed, but yes." Thus, they both began to defeat villains. When Redestro launched debris again, they dodged it, and Izuku, in a swift movement, transformed. Without wasting any time, he launched it at some pillars in the room, and thus another battle began. Izuku threw shadow balls at Re-Destro, who threw debris, hitting Izuku and the approaching villains. Re-Destro dodged them until Izuku saw an opportunity and charged a dragon breath, hitting him in the head and deactivating his quirk. Edge Shot took advantage of this, piercing him and paralyzing his nerves. At that moment, Izuku launched an even more powerful dragon breath, hitting him directly and slamming him against the wall. Izuku had an injured wing and blood was coming from his forehead. He then transformed back and went outside to see the chaos and that Gigantomachia had managed to escape. "Sensei, we lost," he said, clutching his arm. "I think so," the ninja said dejectedly. Then Izuku realized that where the chaos was where his mother was. "We haven't lost. Dude, it's over. I won't let any more die," he said, walking forward. "No, kid, if you use it, we don't know if you'll come back. It's a risk I have to take." But, Edge Shot knelt down, having broken a couple of bones. "Don't do it." "In my room, under the bed," he said seriously. "Yes," she said with her head bowed. At that moment, Izuku started running while Edge Shot shed a few tears. Just then, where Gigantomachia was holding Tamura in his hands, a hole opened up above them. Something like that. As Izuku continued running, seeing heroes who had fallen in battle, he unleashed all his power, transforming into his origin form. He began to fly over what was once the forest, in full view of everyone, until he saw a gray-haired girl. "I'm sorry, Reiko," she thought as a tear escaped. On the ground, Reiko was helping the wounded until a shadow flew over them and she recognized it. Izuku said it. As he flew, he remembered all the good times he had lived with his friends, mother, and girlfriend until he saw the giant and the heroes on their last legs. At that moment, Izuku wrapped himself in Gigantomachia, making it impossible to move, and began to fly towards the hole, but it was clear he wouldn't make it. All for One wouldn't be defeated by One for All. He'd be defeated by a true hero who would sacrifice everything, said a white-haired man while 6 other people watched from behind him. "Go beyond your limit, plus ultra." At that moment a light surrounded him, causing him to change. At that moment, the flight sped up as everything was filmed by cameramen in helicopters. Just as they were about to enter, Gigantomachia tried to break free, but Izuku grabbed him with his pincers, pulling him through. He was about to enter, and Izuku simply closed his eyes, stepping through the portal. It closed, leaving him in complete silence. "What happened?" a reporter asked. "Did they win the hero award?" Ryuko fell to her knees on the ground. "Son," she said as tears fell. "What did he do?" Izumi asked. "He sacrificed himself for us," Ryuko sobbed. That shocked everyone, but it didn't last long because of the villains that still needed to be defeated. After a couple of weeks they managed to stop almost all the villains. Now Ryuko, Reiko and Edge Shot were in Principal Nezu's office where the box that Izuku had left was located. "Who will open it?" said Principal Nezu. "I'm the director," said Ryuko. When she opened it, she saw 3 envelopes that said for Mom, for Reiko and for Edge Shot Sensei. "These are yours," he said, handing them the envelopes. Carta de Ryuko. "Mom, if you're reading this, it means he didn't come back or something happened to me. In the worst case scenario, you were always the best mother, and you always will be my hero and the best at both. I'm sorry if I was stupid sometimes, and always remember, your son loves you." That would show an image of Ryuko with Izuku as a child. "Sincerely, Izuku Tatsuma, your son. P.S. Tell Shoto I forgot to write one for him." Ryuko couldn't take it anymore and started to cry. Carta de Edge Shot. "Hello Sensei. If you're reading this, it means I left. Well, most likely that's why, or because the mission went wrong. But anyway, thank you for accepting me as your student and teaching me everything you knew. I will always be grateful to you. Attentamente Izuku Tatsuma Giratina." Edge Shot just lowered his head and let a couple of tears fall. Reiko letter. "Hi, I know you'll hate me for this, but I'll be the one who hates myself the most for leaving you. If you read this, I'll hate you again. Fall in love again. I was always happy by your side. I was planning to ask you to marry me after we graduated from UA, but if you read this, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry, Reiko. I will always love you. With love, Izuku, your phantom dragon." That would show an image of Izuku and Reiko on one of their dates. I left you a gift under the floor of the box if you read this. Reiko couldn't take it anymore and started to cry. After a few minutes, she approached the box to lift the bottom of it with her quirk and found a plush toy with a note. I will always be with you, with love, Izuku. Reiko just hugged the plushie while crying. On an island in the middle of the sea there was a large forest where there was an egg, which began to hatch and an eye was seen. A woman narrates, "This is Burke. It's 12 days north of Calvary and a few degrees south of freezing death. It's located right in the middle of sorrow. My village, in a word, tenacious, has been here for 7 generations, but all the houses are new. We have fishing, hunting, and a lovely sunset view. The only problem is the pests. You see, most places have mice or mosquitoes, some sheep were seen carrying something, but here there are dragons, while a red dragon burned the door. My name is Valka and I am the wife of Stoic, the vast chief of our village. A couple of months ago my son Hiccup Haddock III was born. While I was pregnant I found an abandoned dragon egg. I took care of it until it hatched. When it hatched, a dragon emerged that I had never seen before. It had a pair of bat-like wings and looked like a centipede, but it was adorable. But that's not all. Currently, the town is under attack. I just freed a dragon from its death, but a dragon just entered my house." End of Valka's narration. A 4-winged dragon could be seen entering the roof of Valka's house. She quickly grabbed a sword to defend her son, but then she saw the little dragon she was caring for there, defending Hiccup. The dragon saw her and slowly approached her. She lowered her weapon so as not to hurt it, since it hadn't harmed her son, but then an axe plunged between them. Valka shouted her husband, but then a flame shot out from the dragon, causing the house to collapse. This made Stoic rush to his son's crib while the little one got under the great dragon. "Stop," said Valka, pulling the dragon. That made the dragon look at her again, then take her in his claws and take flight, but before that the little one hung onto the dragon's leg. Stoic as the dragon carried her away. "Valka," she said while holding her son in her arms. While the dragon lost in the night. Narrative. Okay, it's been 10 years since Cloudjumper kidnapped me from Burke and brought me to the Alpha's nest. During this time, I made friends with the dragons and now I'm a protector alongside Cloudjumper. And well, the little one apparently was a hybrid, half dragon, half human, and apparently his name is Izuku, his human name is Giratina, and he went to take charge of helping the dragons of Burke so they wouldn't be killed, while I take care of rescuing the dragons from the hunters." End of narration. And Birch. The island was being attacked by dragons, houses were burned, torches were already lit, and there were a few Viking bodies as dragons. The attack had already passed, but they were capturing the dragons. "We've got them," he said stoically as he circled a nader that had torn one of his wings, preventing him from flying. The dragon tried to defend itself with the spikes it launched from its tail, but the Vikings were approaching, protecting themselves with shields. At that moment, a roar was heard, startling everyone. Some looked behind them, up above, and saw it. "A demon," shouted a Viking. "Not a dragon," he said stoically, and at that moment, the dragon unleashed its attack, impacting the middle of the field and raising a smokescreen, while the other caused the captured dragons to escape. "Everyone's fine," he said stoically, receiving several yes from the others. "Chief, the dragon escaped," said an extra Viking. "Chief, the attack freed the other dragons," said another extra Viking. "Damn it," he said in frustration, "check if there are any dragons left and what the damage is." "Yes," they all said. "What kind of dragon was that?" said Gobber. "I don't know, Big Mouth," he said as he looked at where the dragon was. Meanwhile, with the dragon, which is Izuku, he was flying while carrying the dragon on his back. "I tried, but he won't be able to fly anymore. I'll have to leave him in the nest while he heals," she thought to herself. That's how it spent a few hours flying until it reached the nest. "I was under some icebergs." Izuku Nara. "This is where I've lived since I was basically kidnapped at age 4. I was able to change my form to normal, or human, form. Here live the dragons who are injured or those who follow us. Here the dragons support us and we support them." End of narration. At that moment, Izuku was suspended in the air while his tail descended to the ground. After that, the dragon came down and transformed back. You're back, Izuku, Valka said as she approached with her dragon. Yes, but this wound, she said, while stroking Nader's head. Poor thing, what did they do to him? Has a wing tearing. Let me see. Then he started looking at the wing. Okay, it's not so bad, he'll be able to fly in a while. Okay, you can stay here while you heal, he told the dragon. Thank you for saving me, he told Izuku, but Valka only heard a growl. It doesn't matter. At that point, Nader left the place. Well, Valka, I'm going to rest. Don't worry, Izuku. So Izuku went to climb a tree where he fell asleep. Dream. We'll meet again, Izuku, said a shadowy figure. Izuku Nara, hello, the last time you saw me was 5 years ago. Well, what can I say? Now I'm waiting for a dragon hunting ship to set sail. Why am I so confident? Well, something happened a few years ago. Flashback. You can see Izuku sitting on top of some columns drawing a picture of his girlfriend. They might wonder how. Well, with some things he borrowed from Burke. She's very beautiful, said a voice behind him. Yes, but then he realized something and turned around and saw him. Hello, who are you? He said, standing up and ready to attack. I am me, he said, confused. Yes, or rather, your other half. The other half, he said more calmly. If half of the other world. My spirit, I am not your counterpart from the distortion world. Distortion world. If our home. The portals. If the portals. If I'm here, where are Gigantomachia and Tamura? They are dead. Remembering how he tore them apart and attacked them mercilessly and threw them down the waterfall to who knows where. And why am I here? Well, it seems your soul, body, or spirit wasn't accepted, also because the author wanted to include more universes. And can I go back to Reiko? Yes and no. What? At that moment, the other one began to disappear. What's wrong with you? Well, my time is up, he said, watching it turn like ink. Can I go home? The portals, he said before disappearing. The portals, he said, turning back to look ahead at the sunset. End of flashback. They're out. See you later. End of narration. At that moment, Izuku let himself fall from where he was, which were some columns in the sea, and at that moment he landed on one of the transformed ships. Which was noticed by several hunters. It's the human dragon, shouted a hunter. Attack, shouted the leader of the hunters. At that moment, Izuku launched a shadow ball at several archers and, using a dragon claw with a sword, attacked and injured the other hunters. In a moment of carelessness, a hunter was about to cut him in half, but he became intangible, avoiding the blow and returning it in the form of a shadow ball. After finishing off the hunters and tying them up, he prepared to descend to the charging sonar where he encountered several dragons. Monstrous Nightmare, Thorny Hill, and 2 grouchy, staggering ones. Izuku Nara. All the dragons were gagged and scared, so I started pulling the levers to open the doors. Then I began removing their chains and muzzles, and they flew away. I went to the chief's room and saw he had several jewels, which I put in a bag. But something caught my eye. A contact lens with a dragon design at the bottom of the drawer. I took it, went outside, and saw the dragon hunters. I flew away into the dark night. I still remember what the people of Burke called me in their book of dragons, winged demon or shadow dragon. Ha ha ha, maybe I'll go visit them sometime. End of narration. While that was happening, a young man with brown hair was on a hill with a machine when a shadow passed across the sky. He fired, hitting it, but then a monstrous nightmare attacked him, and he began to flee. And he hid behind a torch that he melted with his fire, but then Stoik, the village leader, arrived and began to hit the dragon whose fire had run out. He hit him in the face a few times, and the dragon decided to flee. Then the torch where the chestnut-haired man was hiding fell, releasing other dragons, and you can see them leaving with their prey. Izuku was flying, but where to? Easy, to his refuge, which was on one of the many islands in the sea. He flew for a while until he saw his island, which was full of trees. He was descending over the sea when a calderon. The dragon raised its head from the sea, intending to bite Izuku, but he quickly dodged by veering to the side. Then he turned around and, still flying, attacked with a shadow ball, stunning the dragon and allowing Izuku to enter the island's forest. This caused the dragon to lose sight of him and return to the sea. Izuku continued flying with the things he had stolen from the hunters until he reached a cave. He entered and found a dragon lying down like a cat. It was a rock-headed place that Rocky had named, I couldn't think of another name, where he woke up and saw Izuku and didn't pay any attention to him and lay back down again. Izuku just watched him and went deeper into the cave until he reached his room where he lit some torches with his fire. Something like that. He went inside and took out a trunk, which he opened. Inside were more gold coins and jewels. He emptied his backpack, put the trunk back, and lay down on the bed, searching one of his pockets for something. "What are you good for?" he said, looking at the dragon-rimmed contact lens he placed on a piece of furniture that held books like pencils made of wood with charcoal, before falling asleep. And Birch, a reddish-brown boy, could be seen standing before a trapped black dragon. He was about to execute it with a dagger he carried. The dragon, already presumed dead, closed its eyes, but then the boy regretted his actions and began to free the dragon, which lunged at him, knocking him down and roaring. Then the dragon leaves, but the boy gets up to take a few steps and collapses, unconscious. With Izuku, he had been asleep for a few hours when a dragon entered his room. It was small, but it carried something like a scroll in its paws. What's wrong, little one?" he said, looking at the dragon. Male roared this. Then Izuku untied the dragon scroll so that it would go to a kind of feeding trough. Then Izuku started reading the card. Izuku formed an alliance with a tribe called the Winged Maidens. You were also going to join so they wouldn't attack you, but they said they wanted to see you, so you have to go to this island. He read the letter and saw that there was a map. Sincerely, Valka. Oh, since then I grabbed a sheet of paper to write that I was going to go, and then I gave it to the terrible terror. Okay, little one, take it to Valka. The dragon simply flew away from where it came. Izuku got up to grab his backpack, eat some mutton, and drink some disinfected water, giving a piece to Rocky before leaving his shelter home, unfurling his wings, and disappearing into the dark night. Upon leaving his refuge home, Izuku flew for 2 days, attacking hunters' ships. Meanwhile, back in Berk, training began for the new Vikings, a group of 6 young Vikings trained to fight dragons, but that's not important for now. Izuku had arrived at the island he'd been told to go to. He landed on a plain with a couple of pine trees. He folded his wings and threw his backpack to the ground, but then he had to dodge some arrows. He managed to dodge them, but then an axe was thrown. He quickly used Shadow Claw and struck the axe, burying it in the ground. Then a sound was heard. It just is. So you're the human dragon, it's true. Valka told us about you, said a voice above Izuku. Winged Maidens, he named them. They descended and stood before Izuku. It's a pleasure, human dragon. Is the pleasure all mine? Izuku asked. Atali, leader of the Winged Maidens, introduced herself. Okay, Miss Atali. Valka told me she wanted to see me so she wouldn't attack me, right? That's true, human dragon, but she would be interrupted. Giratina, please, Izuku said. Okay, Giratina, that's why we called you here, and also so you know that the female members of our tribe have tiny, sharp whips on their backs, and to get to know you, said the chief. Hello, little one, he said, stroking Atari's baby whip. Hello, roared the little girl. Okay. Valka told them about the airmail, Izuku said. He told us how it works. Okay, if you need anything, send an email to Valka and she'll contact me. Okay, that would be all. Okay, see you later, Winged Maidens. Then Izuku took out his wings and flew off towards his refuge home. He was flying through the night until a net that appeared out of nowhere caught him. He quickly fell onto a large ship, but before touching the ground, he transformed. He was looking around, realizing he was on a hunting boat, until the one who seemed to be the leader spoke. Catch him, shouted the one who seemed to be the boss. Yes, Mr. Riker, said a hunter. When they tried to capture Izuku, he quickly cut the ropes with a dragon claw. Then he threw a shadow ball at a hunter, who quickly defended himself against a blow from another hunter with his shadow claw. After that, he threw another shadow ball at the boss, but the boss cut it in half. So the rumors about a human dragon weren't false, Riker said seriously. Who told you that? The ones I robbed, he said mockingly. How much will his head be worth on the market? He said, pointing his sword at him. Oh no, it's priceless. At that moment he had to dodge a rain of arrows launched from another ship, then duck to grab his backpack and jump overboard, not before unleashing a burst of flame at the ship and flying away. "See you later, idiots," he said from afar as he flew. "Damn it," Riker said as he watched Izuku leave while his men extinguished the flames. Izuku fell asleep in some trees on an island because he hadn't used his abilities, but if he hadn't, he would have already reached his shelter home. However, he remembered that he could go to a market that was a little far from where he was staying, so he decided to go back to collect some gold coins and jewels to see what he could buy. Izuku flew to his shelter home. When he entered, he greeted Rocky and went to collect the jewels, grabbing quite a few. After that, he left his shelter home and flew to the market. When he arrived at the island where the merchants gathered, he landed in the middle of the island's forest. After that, he could see that the beach shore had signs warning of danger or prohibiting entry to the sand. He continued on, looking at the variety of shops, buying meats and hides until he came to a kind of blacksmith's shop where there were all kinds of weapons. But something that caught his attention was one that was set aside as if they were going to throw it away. "What can I get you?" said the salesman. "How much do they have of that?" he said, pointing to a double-bladed scythe. "This one isn't for sale, sir. I'll turn it into metal," said the vendor. "I'll give you 20 gold coins for that piece of junk." The vendor didn't tell him twice when he went to buy it and handed it to Izuku. Izuku simply left the coins on the table, put it on his back, and left the market for the forest. He then sprouted his wings, what looked like tentacles, and flew to his refuge home. When he entered his island, he raised his wings to go inside and give Rocky some pieces of meat. Afterward, he went into his room, threw what he had bought onto the bed, and was about to take out his scythe when... "What the hell?" Izuku said, confused. Then he pulled the scythe from his back, noticing that it was different. "Holy shit, this is incredible," Izuku shouted. Then he began to launch attacks with his scythe, seeing that he could divide it in two, making 2 scythes for each hand. That day he spent training all day with his new weapon. The next morning a terrible terror arrived. "Male," roared the little dragon. What is it?" he said, grabbing the paper from the dragon's paw. Then he ran out yelling to Rocky that they were leaving, but what did the letter say? "Izuku, there are too many hunting boats near the nest. I need help to scare them away." Izuku was flying, followed by Rocky, who, when it came to the nest, was a killing machine. They flew for a while, and when they arrived, they saw that they were still quite far from the nest, but Volca and Cloudjumper were already fighting at least 6 dragon hunting ships, a fleet that Izuku had fought a few days ago. Izuku then transformed into his half-dragon, half-human form. "Rocky burns the candles," he roared at the dragon, receiving an affirmative roar. At that moment, Izuku and Rocky went against the fleets. Rocky ignited his wings with fire and began to fly among the sails, cutting and burning them while dodging arrows and nets. Meanwhile, Izuku had gone down to the largest ship and saw someone he had seen a few days before. "Human dragon," Calvo Izuku said. That made Riker's forehead bulge, and without waiting, he launched himself at Izuku. Izuku took out his scythe and counterattacked. At that moment, both clashed weapons. "You're good," Riker said. "I'm no better." At that moment, Izuku leapt away, then separated his scythes and began to unleash a flurry of slashes. Riker was able to block some, but the others were damaging him. Then Izuku launched a shadow ball at Riker, which hit him, sending him crashing into the wall and causing him to lose his sword, leaving him trapped between a rock and a hard place. "Withdrawal," Riker's cry. At that moment, Izuku struck a couple of arrows with his scythes, but one lodged in his shoulder. He was going for Riker, but had to dodge some chains that he tried to cut, but couldn't, causing him to fall off the ship. At that moment, 4 ships set sail, and 2 ended up sinking, courtesy of Rocky. Then Volca approached Izuku, who was in the air. "Thank you, Izuku, for coming so quickly," he said gratefully from atop Cloud Bouncer. "You're welcome," he said, pulling out the arrow. "Hey, won't that have any consequences?" "I just need to rest," he said, prompting Rocky to stand beside him. "Well, Volca, see you later." At that point, Izuku and Rocky decided to retreat to their home refuge. And Birch, you could see a boy inside a battle arena with only a shield and a dagger. Then a large door opened in front of him, and out came a monstrous nightmare that began to climb the chains of the arena while throwing a fireball out of the arena. It then stood in front of the boy, who lowered his weapons, worrying everyone as the dragon approached. Then he started talking as he slowly reached his hand toward the dragon, but a hammer blow startled the dragon, almost tearing off his hand. He started running, the dragon chasing him. Meanwhile, a blonde girl tried to open the entrance with an axe, succeeding. She grabbed a mallet and threw it at the dragon, who then chased after her. A Viking opened the entrance to rescue the girl, but the boy ended up in the dragon's clutches. The dragon was about to attack, but another dragon entered the cage from outside, creating a smokescreen that obscured the Vikings outside and made them worry about the boy. After that, a black dragon, better known as a night fury, was seen attacking the monstrous nightmare before protecting the boy. After roaring at the dragon, it retreated, but then the Vikings from outside came down and subdued the dragon while the boy was held by the girl as he begged them to let him go. A gray dragon could be seen plummeting down, following another dragon, but at that moment a ball of fire entered the mouth of the great dragon, setting it ablaze. It fell to the ground, causing an explosion. At that moment, Izuku woke up very lazily, rubbing his eyes and yawning, to leave his shelter home and go outside to see the dark sky. 2 to 3 years later. During this time, Izuku was messing with the hunters, but he also learned that there was a dragon tamer. He also found out that there had been a war in Berk with another tribe, but they eventually made peace to eliminate other enemies. However, he wasn't interested in that. Currently, he was leaving a hunter's ship wearing a hood and with his loot in his backpack on his right shoulder. Suddenly, on the horizon, he saw 4 dragons approaching him, but he whistled for Rocky to appear and climb onto him. He started to fly, but Izuku turned around to see how they were following him. "Izuku, leave me alone," whispers to himself. But the dragons followed him. Then he could hear the one who seemed to be the leader speaking. "Fishlegs, what kind of dragon is that?" he told a big but not muscular boy that he was riding on a gronkel. "Patapez, I don't know. Hiccup, I haven't seen that type of dragon or there's any record of it," he told the boy, now known as Hiccup, that he was riding a night fury. "Are you saying we don't know anything about that dragon?" said a black-haired woman atop a sharp whip. "Patapez, exactly, we don't know anything. That we'll," Hiccup said, a blonde woman on top of a nader. "Hiccup, we'll split up to try and capture him. Fishlegs, Heather, Astrid, and me, understood?" Receiving a yes to split. "Okay, let's go for it. Astrid or she." Then they started following Izuku, but he went into an island where the riders split up to catch him, but he got off the dragon since he wasn't used to carrying it. "Izuku, okay Rocky, go home, I'll come later." He said this to a roar of confirmation. "Okay, be careful," he told his companion to leave the way they had come with the loot. Then Izuku started running through the forest, spotting the occasional dragon, but suddenly some spikes pierced his path, stopping him in his tracks. "Astrid, there are these hiccups," he said, pointing at Izuku. At that moment, they both descended to the ground to dismount their dragons, weapons in hand, while the dragons remained on guard, sensing that Izuku posed a threat. "Hiccup, who are you?" he said, to set his sword on fire. But he didn't realize the dragons were about to attack, but then the other 2 arrived, surrounding Izuku. "Hiccup, what are you doing on the hunter's ship?" "Izuku, it couldn't have ended worse because the dragons tied them up, raising a layer of dust." "Hiccup, guys," he said, agitated. "Astrid, we didn't do anything, they attacked." But the dragons remained on guard. But from the layer of dust emerged several shadow balls, impacting the dragons. "Astrid, storm," I screamed, worried about my dragon. The others went to check on their dragons, worried, but when they looked back at where the dust had settled, they saw Izuku and were shocked. "Patapez LD Dr. Ogon so embryo," he said, stuttering with fear. Worse still, the 2 girls lunged at him, one with an axe and the other with a double axe. But Izuku summoned his double scythe, where with one slash he broke Astrid's axe while Heather tried to hit him with the axe, but Izuku protected himself with his scythe. "Izuku, you're good," but he said, sending a shadow ball that struck her, knocking her unconscious. "I'm better," he said, but he saw Hiccup. "Hiccup, who are you?" he said, looking at Izuku. He said he was about to lunge with his flaming sword to cut him down, but what he didn't expect was that he would dodge, use his wings, and fly away, leaving them alone. It can be seen on an island with several covered cages so that it can be seen how Riker walked next to another subject. "You smell that?" brother, said the stranger. Smokes olfactory tea dragon poop as they advanced. Gold. This auction will not only bring us riches but will also increase my reputation as the best seller of dragons, both live and dead, but everything has to go perfectly. How's security? I finished to stop. Smoking, we've doubled the catapults, they're building the towers, the riders and the human dragon won't ruin the auction. See what you can achieve if you use your mind, brother. He said this while grabbing his head, and the other man looked at him in disgust. News from our special guest, he said to mate in front of a cage of a swift stinger. Smoking, are you sure he'll come? Of course, as soon as you receive confirmation of their arrival. Smoking, I'll let you know, looking at him intimidatingly. Budget that you plow it, he said as he stepped back to look at the sky for a moment. But among the curtains, one could see an almost transparent being, though it wasn't visible. This was Izuku, who had overheard the entire conversation. He then withdrew to await his moment. Later that night, you could see how in one kind of scenario there were several Vikings from different tribes, but the ones who attracted the most attention were a blonde man who was talking very arrogantly to a hooded man who was serious. Then Riker's brother started to speak. Friends, by yourselves, honored guests, I think we have gathered a unique and complete group of dragons in the archipelago, I'm sure you'll agree. He said this as he approached a cage which he opened to reveal two blonde men, surprising everyone. Then the blonde man started throwing gold coins, saying it was raining gold, but Riker's brother saw the coins he was throwing. I knew he knew him, a dragon rider. Capture him, capture them all, while pointing at the blondes in the cage. At that moment, the men surrounded them with their weapons and took them away. Izuku witnessed this, but after a few minutes, the auction continued, and he saw a night fury, surprising everyone. That's right, cabin crew, your eyes aren't deceiving you. A night fury, the only one in existence, the masterpiece of any collection. Let's open the auction for. But then everyone started throwing out numbers, but someone stood up. Izuku, I give this bald, he said, removing his hood so his head could be seen. At that moment Riker turned around and saw him. Smoking the dragon, but he couldn't finish because of a roar from Izuku. In the cages where a group of youngsters were kept, they heard the roar but were confused, but then changing wings began to appear. Starting to pour acid, melting the bars. Hiccup, what happens, he said, seeing quite a few changing wings, that he had released the dragons. Astrid, I don't know, but we have to get out of here. He said, you ran off, followed by the others. When they came out they could see several shape-shifting wings flying away and disappearing into the sky. Hiccup, okay, go get your dragons. Toothless, he said so that they would separate. Izuku was on a large ship looting it when he hit a chest. Izuku, let's see, he said, placing the chest on the table in the room and opening it. How beautiful. He said, looking at the chest full of gold. Besides saving the dragons, I get an extra bonus. He said proudly, but then he felt the ship moving. Time to go. Then he opened the door to see Riker's brother throwing a chest into the sea, and Riker jumped out the other way, flying away with his great loot. You could see Riker's brother sitting on a rock playing a board game in a field of flowers when Hiccup appeared with his dragon. Hiccup, stay here, friend, he said, stroking the dragon's head. If you make any move, you know what to do. At that moment, Hiccup went to the center of the field of flowers to place a piece on the board from behind his brother. Hiccup, it looks like you're missing a piece, so that the brother would smile. You came, I'm surprised. Hiccup, you're not, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting in a field of flowers that poison dragons, he said, standing in front. A man should take precautions. I saw you arrived with friends watching the girls in the air with their dragons. Hiccup, like you said, precautions. Listen, what do you want, Vigo? Vigo, congratulations. Hiccup, while pointing at the board, your small group has brought victories. You impressed. Your ultimate has caused fear in my personal gains. Hiccup, I'm glad to hear it. I see you are a worthy opponent. While placing another piece on the board and such, this battle between us could last for many years. Or Hiccup, what? Vigo, or finish today. Hiccup, I accept your surrender with a smile. Vigo, ha ha ha. It's good to see your sense of humor is still intact. But I offer you a truce on very generous terms. Throwing the pieces they placed to create a map split in half by a red line. You stay south of this line, pointing at the map, and my men and I will avoid the area. We will never have to fight again. As he got up, Hiccup, I'm not irrational, I don't want to rule the world. Izuku, yeah, Everyone who says that is what they want to be, he thought, sitting in the middle of the field of flowers, but he was invisible. Vigo like, some people. Izuku, you know them, you son of a bitch, he thought. Vigo, I'm a businessman, and peeling is bad for business. Hiccup, and what about the dragon's eye? Vigo, I'm afraid that's not part of the deal, besides, you still have a lens, confusing hiccups. Izuku, dragon's eye, lens, he thought. Vigo, but I offer you the chance to save all the dragons below this line, pointing at the map without mentioning your fellow riders. I am willing to commemorate this deal and end the slaughter. Signing the map, and you, while offering him a type of pencil, and Izuku saw the names of the islands on the Vigo side. Hiccup, I need to think about it. Vigo, of course all leaders need advice, but in the end it's our decision, isn't it? While Hiccup rolled up the map, I hope Astrid's leg is recovering well. He said this so that Hiccup would see him acting badly and leave, but he was stopped by Vigo's voice. Time is the essence of hiccups, he said, so that Hiccup would leave. Peace can be such a fragile thing. Izuku, they didn't even talk about me, he thought, crying comically. Some time later. Silence. Hiccup, Haddock, you served your master well, said a blonde woman at the entrance of a volcano. Without the eruption and to protect us, the fate of our village is sealed, and so is yours, she added, pointing at Hiccup. Hiccup, small, I warned you what would happen if I found out you were lying to me. Then some men pointed their guns at them. Your people are going to die because of what you're attending, but first, Hiccup's pointing his sword at him, I'm going to kill you myself. I warned you, Hiccup, Haddock, I told you not to betray me. He said this while the riders were being held at gunpoint, but they decided to go look for the dragon where they couldn't find it until they remembered something. But what they didn't know was that a few meters away at sea, at a base on an island, they could see the eruption and being released from the hunter's ship. Vigo, I love it when a plan works exceptionally well. As he left. Smokes, we'll see, he said, watching as the dragon approached a mountain. We'll see. So when the riders arrived, they fought with the hunters, who won, until they reached the eruption on. But it kept eating the mountain, causing it to activate a volcano that was about to erupt. Hiccup, bad, we're not going to kill your dragon, but... Izuku talked to him, said a voice that no one knew except Mala. It's been a while, Mala, he said, falling in front of this small Giratina, but, Izuku, I saw the smoke and knew there weren't any active volcanoes around here, so let's see, and look who we have here, he said, confusing the riders. Izuku, it's been a while, friend, he said so that he would lick him. I missed you too, but this isn't your house and this isn't your food, he said this so that the dragon would let out a sad roar. I know you're hungry, but if you keep going you'll leave other dragons homeless. He said, pointing to the dragon riders. So are we going home for lunch or what? He said with a smile, prompting the dragon to give him an affirmative roar. Okay, let's go. He said to start running, followed by the eruption on. When they reached the edge, it jumped, scaring the riders, but those who saw it were surprised. So they took flight, followed by the riders. When they arrived at the eruption's village, the two riders there were ready to attack, but the villagers happily watched the dragon arrive to defend, followed by the eruption, who began to eat the lava and started to celebrate. Small, it's a very good day, a day we will always remember. The Great Protector has returned. The village is safe once again, and the defenders of the wing have new allies in our fight against Vigo Grimborn, Hiccup, and the dragon riders, he said, pointing at them as they waved and the village celebrated. Look at this, they're about to present me as their new king. Prepare your epic acceptance speech. Small, I also chose a new king after Giratina was betrothed. Izuku, I still wanted to live remembering Reiko if she came back, gave me a shiver. Small, one that I'm sure is worth it and will serve him well, his name is Patton. Izuku, because I felt offended, he thought, what the hell is a name for a slob? He thought, holding back his laughter. As he walked forward, thanking everyone, someone grabbed his arm. Loud, be careful with the new truckman acquisition. Dry, where do you think you're going? Loud, hello, you weren't paying attention. I'm going to stand next to my queen and take my place. Dry, the new king must prove he is worthy of the wicked queen. A new king must walk through the pool of courage. While pointing. Izuku, that guy is already dead, but they haven't told him yet, I sing mentally. Loud, well, she shows it every day, but if that makes my queen happy, walked to a lava lake that scared him. Meritus, Mala was saying stupid things, this one ran away on his dragon. Small, he's running away. Astrid, you'd better get used to it. Izuku ha ha ha, watching the jerk walk away while eating a piece of fruit. But then he saw 4 dragons staring at him with murderous looks. Izuku, hello. Seeing the dragons as their riders were approaching, I'm leaving, he said, but someone grabbed his shoulders and he turned around and saw the girls with an evil aura that made him very scared. Izuku, I'm not a man of prayers, but if you're in heaven, save me, Superman. She thought while crying. I'm not Superman, but here's your help. Hiccup, girls, calm down and let her explain what happened that day. Izuku, thank you, he thought and heard you're welcome. Hiccup, could this tell us? Izuku Midoriya, or as I'm known in the seas, the human dragon, changing her voice at the end. Truck, or also Giratina, I shout in the distance. Izuku, that too with dear Chibi. Astrid, and because we were attacked that day we spent half a day waiting for the dragons to deport us, she said angrily. Izuku, you attacked me first, I was just leaving with my loot. Heather, but you were coming off a hunting boat. Izuku, where the blows unleash dragons and I claim my reward, she said smiling. Patapez, and the dragon that was with you. Izuku, you're talking about Rocky. He doesn't like to do anything. That day he went out, I don't even know why. Hiccup, in the auction you attacked with changing wings. Izuku, yes, that was me, but you guys were with the blonde, crooked one, and the 2 blonde guys receiving a yes. What a shitty plan they had. Honestly, who would think of attacking knowing it was infested with hunters? Causing Hiccup to have a depressive aura. Heather, but you attacked, she said indignantly. Izuku, and it was worth every damn second, he said proudly. The riders were deep in thought, but Izuku, well, I'm going to be a rider, there are things to do. He said he was about to take out his wings and start flying, but a ball of plasma hit him, causing him to fall to the ground and hit his head. Izuku, I'm not saving you again, you bastard. He said this before falling unconscious as the dragons laughed. A week later, Hiccup can be seen in a kind of dragon cage waking up. Izuku, there's that lizard on my head. But he thought for a few moments, but I am also a. Then he got up from the ground, stood on the bars, and prepared to go through them. Izuku, I'm looking around and seeing the other dragons asleep, it's like a stable. Then he went outside to look around and saw that he was near where he had taken the eruption on. He looked around and saw the Night Fury, so he turned invisible and went to investigate. Loud ha 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 ha, impossible. Vigo put a price on the hippo's head. He said while holding a wanted poster, ha 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 ha, wow, every bounty hunter from here to the archipelago is going to be looking for you. Hiccup, thank you for your continued support, he said to one side of Astrid, who was giving him a dirty look. Loud, no, thanks to you, Hiccups. Patapez, I wonder if Vigo is going to pay the bounty with Burke's gold. Wait, she doesn't mention us at all. Looking at the sign, said the blonde boy. It's always about Hiccups, said a blonde girl. Typical Hiccup. I demand a reward for us immediately and the release of the dogs now. I will offer a reward. Thanks, sister. I knew I could count on you. Okay, we need nice pictures for the flyers. A terrifying alias, mine will be Thracian Brutus. Hiccup, very well. Enough with this talk of rewards from me or you, we have things to do, while crossing her arms. Heather, I hate to say this, Hiccup, but I think it would be a good idea to disappear for a while this cools down. Hiccup, that's impossible, it gives Vigo an advantage. Astrid, wait, you're not planning on going to the party, are you? Hiccup, but it's Burke's 40th anniversary. Patton, and finally be punished for losing all the gold of Burke, he said laughing, it's going to be epic. Hiccup, we're not children anymore, he's not going to punish me. Izuku, but you deserve it for not listening to your girlfriend. She said, making Astrid and Hiccup blush. But then they got scared because they didn't see the owner of the voice, but even more so because of the blondes. Ghosts, they shouted. Izuku, exactly. Hiccup, you've come for my reward. Izuku, nah, I just wanted to know why your dragon attacked me. Hiccup, human dragon. Izuku, correct, he said to appear on one side of the black-haired girl, making Fishlegs scream. Haha, Hiccup, they've got you on the ropes and you haven't even been fighting Vigo's troops for a year. Hiccup, and how long have you been here? He said, looking at him with a raised eyebrow. Izuku, about 3 years messing with his troops. Why do you think he doesn't have a damn fleet out here right now? He said, shocking the riders worse. Leaving that aside, he said to take a chair to sit down. I think he has a gold problem, or am I wrong? Hiccup, you're not wrong, but you don't look like you have much gold. Izuku, are you calling me? I tried. Heather, no. What he means is that Izuku, I am human but with dragon powers, although here I was born from an egg, he said and thought the last thing. Astrid, what we mean is that a brat won't have enough gold. Izuku 1. I think I'm your age. 2. What do you want to bet, Blondie? Astrid, my axe. Izuku, it's not the one I broke. He said thoughtfully. Astrid, this is the best one with a vein in his forehead. Izuku, nah. I have my gun. He said, as his scythe appeared him something else, I know. Astrid, that. Izuku, his book of dragons. Patapes de Ningu. Astrid, I accept, but if not, you'll have to recover the gold of Burke. Izuku, then let's go to my home. He said to start walking, that they are waiting for, he said to fly away. Then they all saw Hiccup, who simply lifted them up and followed, leading the others to get their dragons. They flew for a while until Izuku entered an island where the riders followed him until they reached a cave where they all got off their dragons. Izuku, welcome to my dear home, follow me. Then the riders followed him to where they saw Rocky. Patapes, what kind of dragon is it? He said excitedly. Izuku, well, it's a rock dweller and it really likes the meat of land animals, but he said while looking for something, here it is. He said, as if to pull out a small chest containing a gold coin, which made Astrid laugh. Astrid, ha ha ha, I think I won, human dragon. Izuku, here's 1% of my loot, he said, starting to walk to another room. When he opened the door, a table with jewels and gold coins could be seen, which made the eyes of the blondes and pattern shine. I think this belongs to me, Blondie. He said, holding the book of dragons in his hand. But I'm not that bad, he said, closing the door again. But since I'm good, he said, going into his room, leaving the riders alone who were watching everything. When Hiccup saw the contact lens, he was going to grab it, but the door opened again. I'll give you this, he said, holding a chest in his hand, that when they opened it they were surprised. Hiccup, but I am alive, he said, looking at the chest. Izuku, I stole it at the auction when I threw another one into the sea. Besides, I think your people need it more than I do, she said with a smile. After a while, the riders left for a party Burke was organizing. They invited Izuku, but he refused and stayed behind to read his new book. Time passed, and Izuku disappeared off the map. Because, well, with the riders around, he took a vacation, enjoying that world. Thanks to the merchants, he learned that the riders had eliminated the Grinborn brothers and other hunters. But today was a day he didn't expect. He was lying in his bed when suddenly a black portal opened. Izuku, so that's what my other self was saying, he said, remembering. But then he remembered the one who had taken care of him in this world, so without wasting any time he began to write. When he finished, he quickly flew to the nest, which was now a giant igloo thanks to the alpha. When he entered, he went to where Valka always was, and when he arrived he saw her crying, hugging a large red-haired man while a boy watched them. This made Izuku smile, but he remembered why he came, so he got Cloudjumper's attention and gave him the note, telling him to give it to him later. Then he went back again. When he arrived, he grabbed his backpack and put in the book of dragons and his notebook, along with several gold items. When he finished, he saw his friend. Izuku, Rocky, I'm leaving, said this sad man. The dragon just roared sadly. Then Izuku hugged him and told him this was his home, causing a tear to fall from the dragon's eye. But he licked Izuku, making him smile. Then he approached the portal with his backpack. Izuku, see you. Then I entered the portal, but the moment I entered it, it closed, turning everything black. You can see a city, but this was the city of Tokyo where it was raining, but we focus on an alley where you can see a blue-haired girl of about 6 or 7 years old running from something or someone, but from what? Well, behind her came 2 guys with gray trench coats and in their hands they carried a briefcase. Then the blue-haired girl, turning between the alleys, bumped into a hooded figure. Pardon, she said, very nervously. Then the hooded figure turned to look at her, seeing that she had tears in her eyes. Just then, the guys arrived. Sir, stay away from that monster, one of the guys with the briefcases said. You are welcome, the other one shouted. At that moment, the guy just put the girl behind him. Because? Asked Is a ghoul, the guy yelled as he activated his briefcase to release a weapon. We have to eliminate that monster, he said to repeat the other's action. The girl was scared and tearing up, but then a small laugh came from the hooded figure. Well, I'll kill them, said the hooded man. At that moment, a black ball shot out of the hooded figure's hand, hitting one of the two men and knocking him to the ground. The other, in his surprise, didn't see the hooded figure take off his hoodie and throw it at his face, causing him to kick the other as he spun around to his knees. A silver-haired man with blonde streaks was revealed, who sprouted 6 tentacles, 3 of which surrounded his hand. At that moment, the silver-haired man quickly attacked the men, killing them but making clean cuts on their necks as if with a knife. Then he picked up his sweatshirt, putting it over his shoulder to approach the girl. "Are you okay, girl?" he said, getting down to her level. "You sniff, will also sniff, leave me," she said, on the verge of tears. Then the silver-haired man began to stroke his head. "Don't worry, I'll take care of you," she said with a smile. The girl could only hug him while crying. Izuku then carried her out of the alley, leaving the bodies there. "Sir, what's your name?" "First of all, I'm still young. I'm 14, he said while smiling at her as he continued carrying her. "And my name is Izuku Tatsuma," he said as he left the alleys and entered the streets of Tokyo. Izuku Nara. Well, when I entered the portal, everything was dark, but I could see floating islands, upside-down waterfalls, and I also saw myself, but in dragon form, telling me I couldn't go home yet. Then another portal swallowed me. When I opened my eyes, I realized I was a baby. I realized I was in Tokyo, but there was nothing related to heroes. Knowing that there were no quirks here, but another race called ghouls, when I was 8, ghoul hunters called doves killed my mother while I was escaping using my quirk. After that, I was able to fend for myself, but I realized that what were my wings had become Kagun. I realized that in each world I visited, my body acquired something recognizable from it, like with the dragons where I improved my dragon form, or here where I got the Kagun. Anyway, I spent some time alone working to eat because even though I'm part ghoul, I can eat normally, maybe because of my quirk. After that, I spent some time killing ghouls who killed for fun, becoming known as a shadow ghoul, but they'll say, "You want to be a hero. Heroes don't kill." Sighs, well, it's not like you came all the way here to see my record, but anyway, when I was 14, I ran into Tuka, a little girl whose parents had apparently been killed by pigeons and her brother had disappeared. When I found her, I saved her from some pigeons, then took her to live with me. After a while, she got used to living with me, calling me brother, which didn't bother me. Anyway, after hunting a couple of ghouls, a ghoul came looking for me. This one was known as the One-Eyed Owl, telling me that if I wanted a quiet life, I should refuse. But I remembered Tuka, so I accepted. I worked at a coffee shop where other ghouls, known as the Demon Monkey and the Black Dog, also worked. After working there for about 8 years, Tuka started working as a waitress, and I quit and worked as a substitute teacher for a while. Currently, I'm 24 years old and I'm on top of a building because, well, I'm trapped inside a ghoul, which they call. I'm a glutton, but I haven't found anything about him or her, so I'm looking into this attack to see what's going on. End of narration. At that moment, Izuku activated his transformation only in his face, making a mask appear so he could pass through the window of the building, entering through the corridors, seeing mutilated bodies, until he was in front of a large man in a white suit. "Give it back to me," shout. But then he saw Izuku standing behind him. "If she won't take her, I'll take you, gloomy ghoul," he said in a voice that emanated madness. But Izuku didn't flinch. The ghoul lunged at him with his Kagun activated, 2 large whips shooting out at Izuku at great speed. However, he dodged them and activated his own Kagun. 3 whips wound around his right arm, lashing out at the ghoul and delivering a clean cut, tearing off one of his arms. "Arranged by damn it," she said with pain. At that moment, the ghoul was about to counterattack with his Kagun, but Izuku protected himself with his own. Then Izuku was about to counterattack, but he saw doves arriving, so he decided to leave. The ghoul, seeing the doves, copied Izuku's action. Below, Izuku moved in the shadows, grateful for Edshot's lessons, reaching a secluded corner of the building where he deactivated his quirk, leaving the scene and going home. The next day, Izuku got up to wash his face and leave the apartment. When he left, He walked for a while until he reached a building, better known as Anteku Cafeteria. He went up the stairs and entered, seeing that there were already people there. The ones who attracted the most attention were a black-haired boy and a blonde boy. He then focused on the front of the counter. The usual, Izuku, an elderly gentleman, spoke. Izuku, yes, boss, he said while scratching his neck. You might be wondering about the blonde streaks. Well, I cut them off because it wasn't normal to see a silver-haired boy with natural yellow streaks. Boss, and how's it going with that? Handing her a coffee. Izuku, I haven't found anything about that, having his coffee. Meanwhile, on television, they were discussing what happened last night. While they were talking about Crota, Tuka arrived, slightly blushing, talking to her brother, startling a blonde boy. A while passed until she had to leave to go to work as a substitute teacher. She taught until the end of the day. Later that night, she went outside to look at the dark sky, remembering her mother and Reiko. Suddenly, she heard a scream. She activated her quirk and smelled blood, following the trail ahead until she reached a construction site. There, she saw a boy standing in front of a female ghoul. Izuku, he's playing with him, she thought. He saw how some beams were hanging above them. Izuku, I'm sorry, kid. Then he climbed onto the beams and unhooked them, causing them to fall on top of the two of them, killing them. He then left because he saw people calling an ambulance, retreating through the building they were constructing and later arriving at his apartment. Weeks passed, and Izuku was able to go to Antekun. He had problems, partly because he had to disappear due to the attention he received for saving a ghoul mother. He bought her time so she could leave while he stayed behind to fight 4 ghouls, killing 2, but the other 2 wounded him. That's why he disappeared. He also didn't hear anything about the gluttonous girl. Then his phone rang. He answered. It was the boss summoning him to a meeting at Antekun with all the staff. He went because meetings were uncommon and meant something important. When he arrived, he basically went through the door to enter the cafeteria and went to the meeting room, seeing everyone. Izuku, sorry for being late, he said, surprising several people as he leaned against a wall. Boss, okay. Now that we're all here, this is about the problems in District 11 and what Anteku will do to make them worse. Before that, I have to tell you something about Kaneki. Izuku, who the hell is Kaneki? He said, surprised, to most. Boss, sorry Izuku, but you didn't know. Well, he's a one-eyed ghoul. Izuku, is he blind in one eye? Boss, apparently, he had an accident with a ghoul named Rise at a construction site, resulting in him receiving an organ transplant from her. At that moment, Izuku started to get nervous. You know something, right? Izuku's solo sigh. Izuku, well, it wasn't an accident, I threw the beams at them. He said, surprising everyone. The boy was dead. The one in front of me was wounded. Besides, I didn't know his abilities. If I had faced him one-on-one, the boy most likely would have died. Boss, and why hadn't you come? Izuku, I had a conflict with pigeons that injured me, so I had to rest because I attracted a lot of attention. Then the leader began to explain how they would save Kaneki, with Izuku being the only one who remained silent. At the end of the meeting, the ghoul mother, introducing herself as Ryoko, reminded him a little of his mother's name. Finally, he agreed to help rescue Kaneki. After the meeting and an explanation from Izuku, the Anteku ghouls prepared to make their escape. After a while, they were gathered around a building, but there were also investigators. When the investigators began their attack, Izuku's group prepared to enter, with him leading the way. A group of ghouls spotted them, but without wasting any time, Izuku struck one with a shadow ball. Then he unleashed his Kagun to finish off the other 3, surprising his companions. They spent some time searching for Kaneki while fighting ghouls until they saw the investigators starting to catch up. They decided to split up, with Izuku going alone. He was running across a bridge connecting the buildings when an investigator stopped in front of him, followed by 2 more ghouls. Izuku, I wouldn't want to kill them. The investigator gripped his weapon and lunged at Izuku as the 2 ghouls also lunged. With his Kagun, Izuku blocked the ghouls' attack, and with a shadow claw, he blocked the investigator's attack. Izuku simply sighed as he used another of his tentacles to pierce the head of the ghouls, killing them. He then deflected the investigator's weapon and slashed at him, sending him crashing against the tunnel wall. Izuku watched them go, but then he heard a crash on a nearby rooftop. He went to investigate. When he arrived he saw something that angered him, a boy who looked like his sister trying to eat her. Without wasting any time, he attacked the boy with a shadow ball, pushing him away so he could approach and pick up the one he considered a younger sister. "Tuka Ayato," he said weakly. "Izuku, rest a little, sister." Then he saw one of those he had come with. "Nishio, get out of here." He simply stood up to pick Tuka up from Izuku's arms and wish her luck leaving there. "Izuku, tell me, Ayato, where do you know Tuka from?" He told the boy who was getting up. "Ayato, where do I know her from? She's my frail sister." "Izuku, seer," he said to activate his Kagun coward. That made the boy angry, and he lunged at Izuku, but the difference was clear: Izuku wasn't being touched. Izuku was stabbing him repeatedly in the legs and arms, but before he could finish him off, someone arrived, causing a cloud of dust to rise and reveal. "Izuku, you are." He had to become intangible to dodge a blow from the albino. He remained like that for a while. "Izuku, he's faster than Ayato," but he thought about it. With his Kagun he was going to attack him, but another ghoul came for Ayato, thus interrupting the conflict. He turned to look at the albino, but he wasn't there. Demons, but then explosions were heard, something but the building where he was began to collapse, so he cursed his luck before jumping and disappearing into the trees. When he met up with the others, they told him that Kaneki had left, giving Izuku more reason to kill him. After that, they went to Anteku. Izuku can be seen on top of a building looking at a road while talking on the phone. "Izuku, are you sure about this? I need you to free up as much time as you can." "Izuku solo, I'll stop him as much as I can, but you know he's the strongest." "Thank you, Izuku." The girls, Renji took them to a safe place. "Izuku, I understand. It was a pleasure meeting you, Yoshimura." "Yoshimura likewise, Tatsuma," she said so that he would call her while hanging up. When the call ended, Izuku remained on top of the building in silence. An hour later, he was looking at photos with his little sister Tuka when a convoy passed beneath him. "Izuku, okay, let's begin activating his quirk." Then he let himself fall from the building to the road below, landing on the hood of a car that stopped abruptly. The occupants hit their heads and fell unconscious from the impact. Izuku quickly went after the other car, throwing a shadow ball that caused it to flip. Things were about to get worse, but he had to dodge a thrust, narrowly avoiding the attacker. "Izuku, Arima," he thought. Watching it, he is known as the strongest investigator, and rightly so. His mere presence is fearsome, he thought, about to let out a small roar. "If I'm not careful, he'll kill me." At that moment, Izuku attacked with several shadow balls, which Arima dodged effortlessly. Arima then launched an attack, but Izuku blocked it with his Kagun, causing him to jump and attack. However, Arima followed up, launching a slash that Izuku dodged, but it severed one of his Kaguns. Izuku then attempted to connect with a dragon claw, but Arima dodged it by ducking and slashing Arima's chest. "Izuku, demons," he said from a distance as Arima approached him. But then Arima approached Izuku at an absurd speed, piercing him with his weapon so that Arima could pull it out of Izuku's chest, causing him to fall to his knees while resting his hands on the ground. Arima last words, "Izuku, earthquake whisper." Then the ground began to crack, causing the highway they were on to start collapsing. Arima fell backward as Izuku tumbled down, taking a large chunk of the highway with him. "Sir," now that a soldier said to Arima. "Arima, we'll take another route," he said as he looked around to see where Izuku was, then turned around and left. Izuku was walking through some alleyways while his wound was slowly closing, but he was also closing his eyes. Then he leaned against a wall. "Izuku, I hope that's enough," he said, looking at the sky. Then a portal opened in front of him. Knowing what it meant, he slowly rose and approached it until he was one step ahead. "Izuku, see you later, little sister," he said to enter. Narrates. In the year 845, the colossal titan and the armored titan suddenly appeared out of nowhere, tearing down the walls and shattering the illusion of peace. Humanity abandoned Wall Maria, losing a fifth of its population and a third of its territory as they retreated inside Wall Rose. Then, in the year 850, in the city of Trost, after another attack by the colossal titan, humanity allowed the titans to advance even further. Soldiers fell one after another before the titans, and then, "Don't," He said this while trying to reach a boy who was in the mouth of a titan, but it ate him, leaving only one arm. After being devoured by one of the titans, Eren Yeager appeared emerging from the body of a mysterious titan. "Attention!" a balding man shouted from one of the walls to the soldiers. The commander-in-chief of the Southern Territories, Pixies, recognized the combat potential of Eren's power to transform into a titan and decided to put an unorthodox plan into action. Pixies, he will take that giant rock located at the gate, carry it to the wall, and seal the hole. Your mission will be to protect him. If the mission succeeds, it will be the first time we conquer a territory from the Titans, and humanity will finally have begun its attack on the Titans, he said as the boy known as Eren Yeager transformed into a Titan and roared. But the operation seemed doomed to failure from the very moment it began. Then the Titan hit a black-haired girl. End of narration of. We have managed to lure most of the Titans to this corner of the city, but despite our efforts to avoid combat, we have lost a fifth of our troops, said a soldier following Pixies. Pixie, we haven't lost them, surprising his soldiers. Those soldiers didn't die alone, they died obeying my orders. This is a critical moment for our survival. I will gladly accept being called a murderer if it means humanity survives. Looking at the city, but then a black spot appeared in the sky. In the city, the Titan that Eren had transformed into struck the area where a black-haired girl was standing, but she dodged the attack, cutting his cheek with a piece of rubble. 3 soldiers were watching what happened until the Titan raised its fist against her again. Ackerman, a soldier, called out to her as he ran towards her. At that moment, the Titan struck again where the girl was, but she dodged it using equipment to stab herself in the Titan's shoulder, ending up in front of him, clutching her hair. "Hey, listen, Ackerman, stay away from him," said the same soldier while moving some swords. "Ackerman, Eren, why don't you recognize me anymore? It's me, Mikasa, your family. Listen to me, you have to plug the hole in the wall with that rock," I was telling the Titan. "The mission to failure, I thought as I assembled a flare. We should have known there was no secret weapon." He thought about firing a red flare into the sky. When the flare was launched into the sky, the hope of all the soldiers fell to the sky atop the wall. "We failed," a soldier said. Pixie, not yet seeing where it comes from. "But sir, the weapon." "Pixie, they are here." Where the soldiers were standing next to the Titan that was Eren, the sun stopped covering them so they could raise their heads and see something falling towards them from the sky. Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. "I don't want any of them to die, understood? If Captain Levi," 5 soldiers said. "Levi Izuku, cover the hole so they don't know who you really are," he told Izuku in his origin form, who only received an affirmative roar in response. As the soldiers fell, they began to cling to structures, but Izuku went straight for the Titan. "Ackerman, get out of the way," I yell at him. Then a blow from an axe struck the Titan Eren, throwing him dead into one of the houses, raising a large cloud of smoke. When the smoke cleared, they saw a 15-meter Titan, but this one was different, too different from the others. He carried a massive axe nearly 10 meters tall. The new Titan buried the axe in the ground and began approaching the rock. The soldiers didn't know what to do, but then Mikasa, using her equipment, went against him. "Plan, damn you," she said as she flew towards him. When halfway through flight, a tentacle-like creature emerged from the Titan's back and threw her onto the roof of a house. "What's that?" said a soldier. "Ackerman demons," she shouted, worried about the girl. As the girl stood up, the new Titan began using all its tentacles to pull the rock out of the hole it had made. Once it was out, the Titan, using its tentacles and arms, began to lift the rock onto its shoulder and started to advance with it. The soldiers were slow to understand, but then Mikasa, in a fit of rage, went after it again. When she was about to attack with her blades, others stopped them, surprising her. "Who was Captain Levi?" "Levi, what were you going to do, cadet?" he told her while they were already on a rooftop. "Plan, I'm going to kill that damned person who hurt Eren." "Levi, you're going to kill one of my men," he said seriously, leaving Mikasa speechless. Before going to see Eren, "Mikasa," he said the last part watching Izuku advance with the rock on his shoulder. After the appearance of some members of the Survey Corps in the Troz district alongside a mysterious Titan who was in charge of closing the opening in Wall Rose, the Survey Corps members eliminated the Titans, supporting both the cadets and the garrison troops. After the opening was closed, the titan who closed at Izuku killed a couple of titans before disappearing from everyone's sight. But how did he get to the Survey Corps? 1 hour earlier. Damned, said a soldier in the mouth of a titan. Just watch, you disgusting monsters, we're going to destroy you. In the end, humanity will survive, he said, plunging his sword into the titan's cheek, causing it to exert more force. Just wait and see, Captain Levi. A kancho passed through the nape of the titan, hooking onto a tower so that Levi could cut the titan's nape and end up on a roof. Levi, 1 to the left, 2 to the right. I was thinking when Izuku finished with the 2 right-hand titans, then a soldier arrived. Captain, I've gathered the reinforcements. Levi. Petra, take care of the wounded soldier, I'll take care of the rest. Petra, understood, Captain. At that moment, Levi went against the titan, realizing that Hange was toying with him, so he quickly finished it off. When he finished, he cleaned his swords to go to the fallen soldier. Levi, how are you doing? Petra. Izuku stopped the bleeding but ended up unconscious. Levi. All right then. The sound of horse hooves was heard. Levi, let's retire. Petra. That. Levi, it's as if we retreated, but we can still fight, my men did not die in vain. A horde of titans march north towards the city. Suddenly, Izuku arrives. Something is happening in the city, the wall may have fallen. That's why Levi chooses 5 men and, together with Izuku, heads towards the wall. Levi. Understood. Izuku. If Commander Erwin. That was the last time Commander Erwin saw Izuku Tatsuma. The Legion cadets accompanying him said he closed the opening and disappeared, but what happened? Izuku carried the rock on his back while using his tentacles, wings or Kagun. He killed the titans. No soldiers helped him since they couldn't move due to the surprise. When he reached the opening, he dropped the rock to return to his normal size, but then he noticed 2 things. Titans were coming towards him and the portal had opened. So he had to make a decision, help the people there or return home and... Izuku. I'm sorry, he said, to enter the portal and that it would close. It was a place where the laws of physics did not apply. At this location, Izuku could be seen in his dragon form, but the strange thing was that he was covered in darkness and was standing in front of Izuku. Giratina, it's time to go home. At that moment, the dragon entered Izuku, changing him in the blink of an eye to darkness, but the reality was that his power was now complete. In a city, you could see people running, buildings on fire, heroes fighting, but the question was, with whom or what? On top of one of the many buildings. I will avenge the master. A doctor, with a vengeful look, stared down at the numerous corpses of heroes and civilians, but they were killed by a horde of. 2 years had passed since the war between heroes and villains, where many civilians died as heroes. Society almost lost faith in heroes, but the few heroes who remained were given another chance. The top heroes who remained were Endeavor, Ryuko, Jet Beanist, Edgehost, and Kamui Woods. The others either retired, died, or were severely injured in the war. UA was hardly affected except for the loss of one of its best students, Izuku Tatsuma. His mother, knowing the risks of this profession, didn't press charges against the academy, but he was out of service for a while. Another person affected was his girlfriend, being the closest to him. She suffered from depression for a few months but decided to move forward for him. It was another quiet day at the academy. Reiko Yanagi woke up. Soon she would finish her 3rd and final year at the academy. She got up to look at herself in a mirror and noticed that she had changed quite a bit in the last 2 years. She yawned to relieve herself and went down to the common room, but what she noticed was that the stuffed animal her boyfriend had left her was lying on the nightstand in her room. When she went downstairs, she saw several of her classmates chatting or having breakfast. She decided to have breakfast with some of her classmates. Tetsu, that's a bad idea. Kaibara, but why has it been 2 years already? Awase, that's why it's not easy to forget someone, and we don't know how long they were together. Kaibara, are you going to help me, yes or no? Tetsu, no, Tatsuma was a good friend, that's why not, she said, going to watch television. Kaibara to Awase just shook his head and went to your room. Kurorio, his soul could still be here watching over her. Besides, I got along well with him, he said, before withdrawing into the shadows. Kaibara, if you don't support me, I'll do it alone. Kaibara was going to go talk to Reiko if it weren't for the sudden appearance of a blonde boy who refused him. Monomial guys, come quick, worried cry. Everyone who was eating stopped to go see the salt, where their faces turned to ones of fear. The reason? Nomus were destroying the city. Heroes and civilians alike were all scared. The same thing was happening as 2 years ago, while the gray-haired girl was worried about someone. Reiko, how, she said worriedly. On the battlefield, the heroes were losing due to attrition. The new members of the mole squad died quickly because of their arrogance, while several old ones, like Hawks, who had lost one of his wings, were in critical condition. The members of the Pussycat squad, along with other heroes, were in charge of the evacuation while the heroes held them back, but then Ryoko fell, badly wounded. Endeavor, we have to go. Present Mike, I know, but which way? He shouted while carrying Ruko on his back. Moat Orca, there are too many. Hitting the Nomus. Endeavor demo. Receiving a blow that sent him far away from the heroes. Ed Ghost Endeavor. I screamed to dodge being sliced by a Nomu. While Class B was preoccupied with Class A. Izumi, we have to go help them. Aizawa, no. Left, I won't let my old man die. He said things were getting worse, some bandages stopped him. Aizawa, and I won't let another one of my students die. The heroes couldn't get out of there, they were surrounded. Grag Orca was being beaten by 2 Nomus while Edgehost and Presson Mike tried to get them away from a badly injured Ryoko, while Endeavor called the Nomus attention. It seemed like this was the end for the heroes. The Nomus stopped, surprising the heroes, but they were looking at a stain on the ground, waiting for it to appear. Most of Class A was in shock since they had seen him before, while in Class B Reiko fell to her knees, worrying her friends. Kendo, Reiko, are you okay? Reiko is the confusing most people. I am leaving, she said with a smile and tears. That surprised everyone, but it left one boy speechless. The dragon that was digging emerged from the shadows, surveying the situation, and let out a ferocious roar. That son, he said weakly. The great dragon, after emerging from the shadows, let out a mighty roar, causing the Nomus to roar as if animals were about to attack each other. A doctor was confused as to why the Nomus were focusing on him. Without wasting a moment, the dragon unleashed a powerful dragon pulse that sliced a Nomu in half, but it regenerated. The drone shifted into a more human form and, with a double-bladed scythe, cut a Nomu in half, causing it to burst into blue flames. 2 Nomus tried to strike it from behind, but they were impaled by tentacles that crushed their heads against the ground, killing them. Thus Izuku began to massacre all the Nomus before the astonished gaze of the heroes and the people watching on television. When Izuku finished, he went up to the building in an instant to bring the doctor down and throw him at Endeavor's feet. Izuku, because I always do their work. Doctor, damn disgrace. I don't finish because of a shadow ball from Izuku. Izuku, to be quiet, he said, before falling unconscious. Endeavor, brat. Endeavor went to see Izuku to make him sigh with relief since he was only resting. After that, Izuku was taken to a hospital along with all the injured while Endeavor finished off the Nomus that were still moving. In a hospital, Izuku, to my head, he complained as he stood up. You knew the consequences of using it and you did it anyway, a voice said in the room. Izuku, Edgeshot sensei. Edgeshot, you idiot brat, he said, appearing and hitting Izuku on the head. Izuku also, yeso. Edgeshot, that was nothing compared to what she'll do to you. He said to get out of there. Izuku, who? That's when it becomes clear who I was talking about. I have to escape. Just then, the door opened, revealing a beautiful gray-haired girl. She saw Izuku about to climb out the window, so using her quirk, she pulled him in and hugged him. Reiko, Izuku hugging him as tears fell. Izuku, Reiko hugging him. Reiko, you're an idiot. To hit him on the head that left him on the ground. Izuku, I deserve it. Reiko, there was no other way to do something. Izuku, maybe, but it was the best I could think of, he said as he stood up. Reiko, at least you thought of us before you did it, she said, before hugging him again. After that, a few days passed during which Izuku received a beating from his mother and his Aunt Rumi for what he did, making up for lost time with Reiko and talking to a certain animal whose exact nature is still unknown. Izuku was standing in front of a door that said 3A. Aizawa, you can pass on children's problems. Izuku, I missed him too. Entering the room, I returned. Left, you damn lizard, why didn't you say anything? Getting up from his seat. Izuku, I missed you too, but I brought you a souvenir from beyond the grave, all traumas, he said to take out a backpack-use teapot. Left kya, everyone thought he was strange. I say ah, he said, then started running around the room. Izuku, who are you calling a lizard? Following him with the teapot. Aizawa, I've barely arrived and it's already causing problems, she said with a small smile. 10 years later. Japan, that city where a war between heroes and villains took place, ending with the hero's victory. Currently, Japan has one of the lowest crime rates thanks to the new symbol of peace, Izumi Midoriya. But nobody cares about that. Let's go to a luxurious house belonging to a ghostly couple, Reiko Yanagi, the number 18 hero in the rankings, and Izuku Tatsuma, number 8 in the rankings. The couple was sleeping peacefully when the door was opened by a gray-haired girl of about 6 years old. Dad, I'm going to be late for school. I was telling him while I was moving it. Izuku, 5 minutes but, Dad, Reiko, Izuku. Izuku, if I go, he said to stand up and stretch. Okay, let's go, Emmy. Emily, Tatsuma, quirk. Poltergeist. It has the same functions as its mother's, only more powerful, and could also transfer things like its father. Izuku got up to carry his little girl on his shoulders and leave the room, only to find the kitchen ablaze. His daughter sometimes didn't wake them up and made her breakfast using her quirk. Izuku just sighed and left the house. Once outside, he began to transform, exciting his daughter. He flew with her on his back until they arrived at the little girl's school. When they got there, the girl saw someone. Emily, Uncle Shoto. Left. Hello, little one. I greet her as she approaches, holding hands with a dark-haired boy with white streaks. Izuku, that there are all kinds of trauma. Left. Ha, I've already overcome my fear. Izuku, oh really, he said, putting his hand in his pocket, startling the child. That he's afraid, my dad, Uncle Izuku, the boy asked calmly. Izuku, to a silly little thing. Enji Todoroki hiyo de Shoto Todoroki yui kodai. Quirk. Flame size. He can triple his flames more than his dad, just as he can shrink them like an ant. Emily, come on, Todoroki, or we'll be late, he said, pulling the boy. Enji and Emily, see you, Dad. She said goodbye while the boy waved goodbye. Izuku, he looks too much like Kodai. Left. Too much for my taste. Izuku, I remember when they announced their relationship before they broke up, it was a big surprise. Left. Those were good times. Izuku, I think the best. Each boy was heading home when patrol cars began to be heard, smiling defiantly. The other day, Izuku had just finished and was looking at a picture of him and Reiko on one of their first dates when someone hugged him from behind. Reiko, what are you looking at? Izuku, one of our first dates. Reiko, hee. Those were good times. Izuku, you're right too, when my Aunt Rumi wanted to break your back for taking away my innocence. Reiko, didn't remind me, he said with a shiver. That day, Izuku and Reiko had gone to Izuku's mother's house to tell her about Reiko's pregnancy, but what they didn't count on was that the former heroine Maruko was there that day. Maruko wanted to kill Reiko for taking away her nephew's innocence, but she was stopped by Izuku and Ryuko, who was crying tears of joy. Izuku, but we had a good time to go to bed. Reiko, you're right about that, he said, leaning over Izuku to kiss him. That night, I'll just say that Izuku and Reiko were trying to make Emily a little brother. The end. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and now we will see you in the next video.